soul, high soul, high soul, high soul, high. It's a little neo soul for you. Divine House Star people, welcome to the Envy McKee Show, aka Star Folk University, the onlyest on-air school for modern mystics. We have a gorgeously full show planned for you, but let's take attendance first, as we often do. Eric Nixon, aka DJ Frosty Phoenix on the ones and twos, aka our Dean of On-Air Music Fellowship, and keeping this ship together. Are you here, sir?
I am here, however, you sound like you're echoing, my dear.
Am I echoing? Why would I be echoing? Why would I be echoing?
Well, since you fixed that, Martin, the Dean of Healthy Skepticism, are you here, sir?
Yep, I am present.
So am I still echoing?
Well, you sound like you're just far away.
Yeah.
Far away, come
There's a
down.
lot of background noise.
Really?
Yeah, it's weird.
Like
It's
the
not. It's the same
Oh,
mic, right?
Here we go. This is what I'm going to do. You keep introducing, and I'm going to fix this.
So we got a show for you today. It's gonna be Kappa. How?
All you have to do is read the rundown, Martin. Because we have a whole script that has a whole rundown on it. That you can
Really? Like, so obviously you could talk. You could actually, keep on going.
read. So what?
How Eric said.
Microphone.
There you go. There you go. Wow, as soon as I get ready to read, there you go.
Yeah, because you took too long. You know how this goes. You ain't new to this.
Wow.
Okay, so Eric Nixon, a.k.a. DJ Frosty Phoenix on the ones and twos, a.k.a. our Dean of On-Air Music Fellowship and keeping the ship together. Are you here, sir?
I am here, and you sound great.
Martin, the beauty of live radio, the beauty of live radio. Martin, the shaman, our Dean of Questions and Healthy Skepticism. Are you here, sir?
Mm-hmm.
With an attitude. Good. That there is our woo-woo core crew. You know next time that there is a technical difficulty on my end to pull up your show format and read from that, okay? So now you understand. You win some, you learn some. You never lose some. Okay, my name is Envy McKee. I am the founder of this here Starfolk University, and I'm also the dean of what we call metaphysical exploration. If you're new to this class, welcome, and hi, soul hi. We're glad that you're here. Now, I want to go back. We've been doing this for the last few shows this month to explain why we say Leviathan in the beginning of the show. Leviathan means light the love in all. It comes from the Stellar Trilogy, which is a series of spiritual sci-fi books that I have written. And there is a group of people in this story called the Stai. And so Tuastai, which means tongue of stars, is what this language is called. And Leviathan literally means light the love in all. Light the love in all. So when I say Leviathan star people, the Woo Woo Core crew says
Something.
Leviathan Osho. See, they're gonna play.
Sorry, doing things
When I
in the back.
say Leviathan star people, y'all say
Divine Osho,
Right,
Andy.
I'm so envy.
right, but you don't sound. You're not supposed to say it like you're drinking the Kool-Aid. You're supposed to say it like, oh, that's what's up. Like when I say what's up to you, you say, oh, what's up? That's how that is. So I'm like, Leviathan star people, you make Leviathan Osho, Envy. Leviathan Osho means light brings love to light. So now you have learned a new language that we are going to make possible, just like some people learn Wookiee or whatever Star Wars language. Some people learn Fae from Lord of the Rings. What was the language? The fairy language, whatever. Y'all can learn Tuastai. Okay?
That's all, Eric. I don't know about that.
Listen, I'm just going to be quiet on that one. All my blurs, there's a whole language, okay? A whole black star people language. So what's happening on this show? This month this week, this whole month we are doing our shift prompt is the art of being holy. And so this week, because it is Fourth Friday, we are capping up that conversation. And this hour, we're going to be going around the room, of course, and catching up. But later on in the hour, we have the gorgeous and talented Taylor Johnson Gordon from Sister of the Yam. She's going to be calling in. She is an herbalist, and she has these really dope classes, herbal classes specifically for Black women. She's been on the show half a dozen times. So she just had a baby, and so she's been on maternity leave. She says she's 3 months postpartum. We're going to talk to her all about that, and she's going to tell us how to kind of, we all understand that we're coming into the winter months. It's already fall. We're going into the winter months, and as it gets colder, flu season, and then we still have COVID looming. So we want to make sure that our bodies are as healthy as possible, but we also want to make sure that we have a pantry and an apothecary in our homes that we can handle some of this stuff before it gets out of hand, right? So Taylor Johnson Gordon from Sister of the Yam is going to be present. We also are going to be reading from our Woo Woo Metaphysical Book Club offering, which is from Howard Thurman. The book is called Jesus and the Disinherited. And I learned about this book. I'm taking classes at Agape, my church, and in LA. And this is one of the foundational luminaries that they talk about is Howard Thurman. And interestingly enough, I did not realize that Howard Thurman was, not only was he a spiritual leader during the civil rights movement, he is one of the foundational thought leaders in the nonviolence portion of that movement. And one of the books that Martin Luther King carried around with him when he walked around the world, because lots of folks don't know, Martin Luther King wasn't fully invested in nonviolence in the beginning. He was like, listen, somebody, you know what I'm saying? Like, they could get it. And Howard Thurman was a mystic. And his philosophy is in part in this book. And so I feel like in times such as these, where we are feeling disempowered, maybe, where we're feeling frustrated and tired and just exhausted just from the daily aspect of this, to look back at what our ancestors were able to accomplish during times that were probably more exhausting and more oppressive, and look at some of the works that they were reading. I think that can be empowering. So I'm just going to read a little bit from that book. And please, like, I feel like this is one of those books. If Martin Luther King, if this was part of his daily arsenal, I feel like it can be part of our daily arsenal, because he was a revolutionary. That whitewash stuff that they talk about Martin Luther King, that ain't even it. You know what I'm saying? That ain't even it. So he was gangster, and the work that he did was gangster, and we need to respect that work as such. If we have time, we'll do the good news, but we'll see. And then, of course, in the 8 o'clock hour, Black Artist Story 8 o'clock, Black Artist Story 365. We are Throwback Thursday, Flashback Friday. So it's Friday. We Flashback Friday, HBCU majorettes, and that is the last Flashback Friday from our little summer break from doing Black Artist Story 365. We have a brand new episode coming up next week for our new shift prompt. And Jason Mitchell will be on in the 8 o'clock hour, Reverend Jason Mitchell. And we are answering and asking the question, how do we transcend feeling unsafe in our skin? And I feel like it's going to be really interesting to talk to Jason about that. So that's what we have lined up for the show. Should be fabulous.
I need my own sound effects so I can be faster than Eric. Thanks.
Oh, that's not possible, sir.
So, Woo Woo Core Crew, I haven't seen you guys in a week. What's going on with you? I'm going to tell you about Paw Paw Fest, y'all.
I want to hear about Paw Paw Fest.
You want to hear about Paw Paw Fest?
Yeah, I'm good on my week.
Okay.
We can forget this week.
Okay, so do y'all know what Paw Paws are?
No.
I imagine it's some type of fruit.
It is. It is. Paw Paws
You would imagine that.
Paw Paws are a tropical-like fruit indigenous to the Northeast. So they taste like a cross between a mango and a banana and a pineapple, and they're related to the custard apple and soursop. They're related. They're in that same family, and they are native, indigenous to the Northeast. Our indigenous brothers and sisters, they're not. They're starting to cultivate them now because humans are crafty, but they were never popular because they don't last long. They're not market foods, even though they're being cultivated now differently. So I grow on my farm at Aphrodisia, which is now in its early stages. It's not quite a farm yet, but it is getting there. My garden at Aphrodisia, I grow rare, unusual, and heirloom varieties of fruits and vegetables and herbs. Like that.
Why do you do that?
I think part of it is because I can get the regular stuff at the supermarket. I want to grow stuff that you can't get at the supermarket. You know what I'm saying? Like I like to grow things that, and then also I feel like it's good for our environment to have more of a diversity. I don't feel that is, the established thought process. We have hundreds of thousands of varieties of fruits and vegetables, and in our supermarkets we have 3. You know what I'm saying? Like we have just 3 things to choose from. And so one of the beautiful things about growing your own food is that you can grow whatever you want to eat. You can grow whatever you don't see in the market. So, and as Ron Finley, the master gardener, who is known to say, growing your own food is a license to print money. And so get in on this. Anyway, so once I learned and discovered about pawpaws, like I want to say like 5 years ago, I was on a hunt to find them, and I couldn't find them anywhere because they were just so rare. And the people that did find them, they were really like foragers, and I'm not really a forager yet. You know what I'm saying? Like I like to be able to identify plants, but I'm not one of those people who will go out into the forest and be like, oh, I'm going to eat that. You know what I mean?
Neither am I, girl.
So anyway, now you can find pawpaws more often, and there is a whole actual pawpaw fest, and I actually got to meet his name is Michael Judd. He is a cultivator of pawpaws on his family land in Maryland, Frederick, Maryland. We went this past Saturday, and we got to try pawpaws. We got seeds for pawpaws, and we got plants for pawpaws for our farm. And we also got to meet this gorgeous girl named Alex, who has this company called A Little Wild. And she intuitive blends tea. Little black girl. And this is her business. And I'm not sure, it's a new business. And I bought everything. And she put together this gorgeous intuitive blend for me called Envy. See? And it's got lavender and rose and licorice and tulsi in it. And I've been using this for my tea. We'll just say I've been using it for my tea. And it's gorgeous. It does everything it's supposed to do. So go check out A Little Wild on Instagram and support Alex. Get you some intuitive blend tea. She's going to be on the show at some point. So Pawpaw Fest was amazing. And yes, if you want to see pictures, go.
What do they taste like, Envy?
They taste like, I think I said that at first, they taste like a cross between banana, and the different varieties taste different. They have lots of different varieties, but they taste a cross like banana, pineapple, and mango. And then they taste like themselves, like they just taste like their own self. They're delicious. Pawpaws are amazing.
A banana, a mango, and a pineapple.
Yeah, and they have a custard. It's not even custard. It's like the texture of the actual fruit is like a mango.
Yeah, I'm looking at the pictures. It's weird. It looks a little banana-ish. It looks a little pineapple-ish. Not so mango.
And you see the seeds, right?
Yeah, big seeds.
So what's interesting is I couldn't find seeds anywhere. Like the place I normally get my seeds, they had them for a little while and then they were out. And so now I have a plethora of seeds.
Gotcha.
I have so many pawpaw seeds now. I'm so excited. So excited to grow pawpaws. And I have 2 little pawpaw tree links.
Nice.
So if you're interested in pawpaws, there's a whole group on Facebook for pawpaws. Just do a little Google search and we can talk about it. Like, I would love to get a little
Several festivals, North Carolina Festival, Ohio Festival.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay,
Type in
I didn't
Pawpaw
realize.
Fruit Festival.
I didn't realize.
Yeah, it's a thing.
It's a thing.
So it's considered America's native fruit.
Yeah.
Which to me, it looks very native. You know, it looks very
Right?
Original, natural Americans. You know, it doesn't look like it was brought over by England at all.
Right. Well, word on the street is that George Washington loved them. That's what we go to. We want someone to dap up something.
I don't see Benjamin Banneker eating that. I'm going to say. I can see Christmas Addicts though. He's English, but was like,
look, the music is on. That means Eric is telling us it's time for us to go pay these bills.
Bloody pawpaw.
So now, if you didn't know anything about pawpaws, you know about pawpaws. When we come back,
that's what I learned this week.
Good. When we come back, Taylor Johnson Gordon from Sister Yam is going to tell us about her new class that's coming up to get us prepared for the winter months, get our apothecary popping, especially if you were an African American woman with children. Okay, that would be a mother. My name is MP McKee. That's DJ Frosty Phoenix. That's Martin Shaman. This is the MP McKee Show, aka Starfolk University of WURD 900 AM 96.1 FM. We'll be black.
He knew. Donald Trump knew how deadly COVID was months ago, and he lied about it. Just listen.
Now it's turning out it's not just old people, Bob. Just today and yesterday, some startling facts came out. It's not just older young people, to plenty of young people.
Donald Trump knew as early as February just how deadly COVID was, before anyone even died, and he did nothing about it. His indifference cost tens of thousands of black lives.
It goes through air, Bob. You just breathe the air. That's how it's passed. It's also more deadly than even your strenuous flus.
Nearly 200,000 dead. 1 in 5 are black. This virus is literally killing us, and Trump did nothing to stop it.
Well, I think, Bob, really, to be honest with you, I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down because I don't want to create a panic.
Too late, Mr. President.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
No fear, just facts. This is WURD, independent black media. As a business owner, hiring and developing people from the community that your company serves is one of the best ways to show commitment to that community. Let Word Radio help with Livelihood, our new initiative that connects Philadelphians with companies like yours. We'll feature your business, open employment opportunities, and resources to connect your company with talent and ensure that you reach your target demographic. To learn more about how Livelihood can help you build your team, visit wordworks.com. That's WURDworks.com. Livelihood is supported by the Nightland Fest's Local News Transformation Fund, Borealis Philanthropies Racial Equity and Journalism Fund, and the Solutions Journalism Network.
I ain't no better than you, and you ain't no better than me. But we all have something in common. We all are in species, seeds of God's creation.
Tune in to Messages in the Music every Friday night with Joey T, midnight to 6 a.m. right here on WURD.
Are you a star person suffering from where do I really fit in this world displacement disorder, or WRDFID for short? If you or someone you know is suffering from trying to fit into a world you were born to help evolve, but forgot, and so you did other stuff, you may be eligible to take part in a Star People Realignment Program, sponsored by the Wake Up the Star People of Earth Omniversal Alliance. For more information, read The Stellar Trilogy by Envy McKee, available at envymckee.com or wherever books are sold, like Amazon, and tune into The Envy McKee Show, Friday nights, 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on WordRadio.com and the Word app. Join the Envolution.
Word TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at forward. Word TV. Black Talk Media.
You're listening to The Envy McKee Show.
So let's celebrate the dreamers. We embrace the space between us, 'cause it's alright. We're all in this boat together, and we're sailing toward the future, and it's alright. We can make the whole thing better. We're the authors of forever, and it's alright. We are born on our own.
Welcome back to the Envy McKee Show. Envy McKee, DJ Fuzzy Phoenix, Martin the Shaman. Yes. So, as promised, on the phone lines, we have the gorgeous and talented and brilliant Taylor Johnson Gordon, who runs Sister of the Yam. And she is going to talk to us about her gorgeous and wonderful new baby. Yay, you have a new baby. 3 months postpartum. How you doing?
I'm doing well. It's gone by very, very fast. I think time has been such a weird concept in 2020. So I can't believe that it was 3 months ago, but we're doing good. We're doing really good.
You got a COVID baby. What is that like?
I know. I know. So the one, well, for us, the one good thing about this year.
Right?
was she being born, yeah.
Aw. So,
yeah.
I feel like
we didn't know it was a girl. We were excited.
Say it again?
We didn't know it was a girl. Well, for both of our daughters, we didn't know the gender, and we thought it was a boy. Yeah.
You have
and
two girls.
Yeah.
Nice. You sound happy. You sound relaxed. I feel like you are uniquely qualified to have children during these times, because you're also an herbalist. I feel like you have a unique understanding of what's going on with your body that a lot of us don't have.
Yeah, that's true. And I think a lot of times people too don't realize that they probably are doing more herbalism than they think they are. Because if you are cooking and using garlic, using onions, different things like that in the kitchen, especially this time of year, using rosemary, sage, any of those things, then you are also doing herbalism. And that's a lot of the type of herbalism that our ancestors within like an African American story and narrative, that's a lot of what they did. A lot of it was very much there was more of a focus on preventative medicine by using food as medicine, especially during this time of the year.
Yeah, because where were we going to the drugstore? You know what I'm saying? Like there was no CVS. So if you had an ailment and you had to get back to work, you had to figure out what of the plants were going to heal whatever ails you, so that you can get back to what you were doing.
Mhm. Yeah.
But that goes for. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and there was this understanding too that we were creating, you know, a lot of times when we think about healthcare during that time and a healthcare system, we had our own very subversive system of taking care of ourselves that was independent of white people and white enslavers. We were more of a focus on wellness, while they were more focused on, you know, us being good enough to be able to continue working. So there was that interplay happening as well.
Listen, it's like if everything, I've said this on this show probably a dozen times. The entirety of everything on this country was built on our backs. Everything, from what we consider the gynecology to you know what I'm saying, like healthcare to like all the agricultural, everything that this country was built on our backs. Even around, if you think about whiteness as a structural, as a societal structure, as a caste system, those things were in place because there was a signifier. You have darker skin, so they could point to who was going to be. So let's create whiteness, lighter skin. Let's make everything was about us and keeping us, trying to keep us in a lower caste. Interestingly enough, it didn't quite work out the way that they planned. But that's a whole other show for another. Right. Well, we're gonna continue on this conversation later. But I want to talk about your class, and what I love about you is that you are able to synthesize this information that you learned as an herbalist and teach other people how to be herbalists. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love that. I love that you have classes. I love that you were having classes right up until you went on maternity leave. And you were being very specific that, you know, COVID is a thing, but you can have a apothecary in your own home so that you can take care of yourself while you're at home under quarantine. You had your little class before you went on maternity leave. And now that you're back and we're coming into the winter months, you have your class. Listen, flu season is upon us, and then on top of it, we got COVID. Stop playing with your life. Take my class. Right. And so why don't you tell us about what you have coming up?
So my class it's the second year that I've taught this course, but with everything going on, even before COVID, I knew that I wanted to do an online version just to reach more people. But the course is called Resilient Remedies, and it's a 6-week online course, and it's an herbal medicine making course. And I emphasize that because sometimes there's herbal workshops and courses that are more, that aren't hands-on. So in my course, during the 6 weeks, we'll be making 6 actual remedies during the course.
Okay.
So you'll have
do we have to get the herbs?
No. So I'll send samples of enough of the portion of the herb for you. I mean, they'll have to supply their own jars and different things like that. But in terms of the herbs, I send that to you.
Okay. So you send it to my door.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And,
are these live classes or are they pre-taped?
So it's a mix of both. So a lot of the instruction will be pre-recorded because even though the class itself is live, it's October 12th through November 21st. I have extended it so that people have access to the course 6 months after it takes place. Because I want people to be able, if you're a mother and you want to be able to invest in the course, but maybe those dates aren't the right time for you to take it. Maybe you need to take it a little bit later. Maybe you need to go back and be able to have refreshers and you need to watch some of the videos again. You have access to all that information. So the information, the modules, there'll be 6 different modules, 1 each week. Those are pre-recorded, but we'll have a live Facebook community because I do want there to be that interaction. I know that there can be some online video fatigue right now because a lot of people are, working remotely, doing meetings on Zoom, different things like that. So I do want there to be some interaction. There'll be interaction in the Facebook community, and then I will be doing live Q&As at the end of the week. So that's a great opportunity to talk to other folks, to ask me questions directly. I'll be clearing up some things that I can anticipate. I can kind of usually anticipate what questions people might have. And another thing, too, is that we will actually be doing, so part of that time will be Q&A, and the other part of that time will be doing what I call like sample scenarios. So what I mean by that is, it's one thing to learn this information and to read an herbal, and it's another thing to know how to apply it. So sometimes people will, be getting into herbalism. They'll feel like they need to memorize everything they need to know about all these different herbs, but then when they're actually presented with a situation, say that they have a child that has a fever, and then it's kind of like everything goes off the window, and you're like,
children's Tylenol.
Not knowing what to do. Not knowing exactly what to do. And so we'll be doing sample scenarios so that we can look at an example of just a scenario, something that someone has experienced during cold and flu season, and we'll be able to think critically, and we'll be able to do it in real time and think, so how would we approach this? What type of herbs might we use in this situation? How will we prepare the herbs? Just give people that space to be able to, think critically, because that's a lot of a huge part of herbalism is the application. It's not just enough. It's not enough to just know a long list of what the herb does or doesn't do. You have to be able to apply it to an actual person, to an actual life situation.
Absolutely. And do you find that it's a mix between understanding what the property of each herb is, understanding the person that you're dealing with, and a little bit of intuition? Do you find that it's kind of like a dance between those things?
That's the perfect way to describe it. And the intuition is definitely a significant aspect. That was an aspect, that's what I experience now. But it was also a very huge part of herbalism in the context of chattel slavery. So I'm focusing on, I'm teaching on herbal remedies during this season, but I'm doing it through the lens of African American herbalism. And that's because a lot of people don't know.
We've talked about the roots on root work and that kind of stuff on the show many times.
Maybe, yeah, because a lot of people say, they might just think of Ayurveda or Chinese medicine, and so they don't know necessarily that we have our own robust tradition. And a lot of it was having intimate understanding with these plants, and also using some intuition as well. And I appreciate that you brought up what the person, understanding the person's, constituency and energetics. And, so every herb interacts with every person differently. We're not all the same in that regard as well. So that's the course. It's 6 weeks long. We'll make 6 different remedies. I have geared it towards, last time I taught it, I did it more open, but I have made it more specific for African-American mothers because I want we'll be talking also a lot about pregnancy, what you do when you're pregnant and you get sick. You get the cold, you get the flu. How can you do that safely? How do you, what are safe herbal practices for children and babies? Because that's a very specific, nuanced group. And a lot of times people think that babies and young children are just small adults, but they aren't. They have, there's a uniqueness there. And there's a lot of crazy stuff on the internet regarding natural remedies and herbs, and especially with kids, and I see a lot of misinformation. So that's something that will be emphasized in the course as well. And like
are you focusing? Are you putting a understanding that COVID is real and it is different than the flu? Do you have kind of like as part of the course a way to, should COVID be a part of your experience, do you have like some sort of remedies in that regard?
No.
Or are you dealing mostly on prevention?
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
Are you dealing mostly with prevention, keeping your immune system up, or do you have something in regards of if you have COVID symptoms or something like that, these are the herbs, the remedies that you can use?
A mix of both, because we do know a lot of clinicians have said we do know about vitamin D and its role in COVID, and a lot of the people that have tested positive and have been the most hurt by COVID had very low vitamin D levels, which I also think why it's also connected to the percentage of Black people in this country who we usually tend to have lower vitamin D levels. So vitamin D has something into play. Other things like an antioxidant called quercetin, which is found in red onions. It's found in just lots of different fruits and vegetables, orange peel. That has been, there's some interesting research around that and how it's been helpful. Vitamin C, zinc. Those are just some of the things that a lot of functional practitioners have been showing have been helpful for people. But I am more of the approach that there's so many, we're interacting with so many viruses all the time. We happen to know the name of COVID right now, but there's so many other ones that we are also interacting with that we don't even know their name. So how can we support the immune system through lifestyle and looking at the immune system as a holistic way? So, for example, a lot of people, if they think about the immune system, they just think about how to not, what do you take to stop a cough? But really, the immune system affects every system in the body, especially how we deal with stress. So that will be a component, too. And this has been a very stressful year for a lot of people, and it's not over yet. We still have the election coming in a couple of months. So, this has been a very, very stressful time, and stress makes it, if we're not, stress is a part of life. Getting sick sometimes is a part of life. So how can we be resilient in that?
That's why it's called resilient remedies, isn't it?
Yeah,
I love it. So how do we sign up for the class? How do we get into this? I'm ready. You have convinced me.
So you just go to my website, sistersam.com. There'll be a tab for resilient remedies. Or if you follow me on Instagram, it's the same, Sisters AM. And if you go to the link in my bio, you'll be able to register for it. Early bird registration closes this weekend. So you'll be able to register until October 5th. I also have I'm doing one scholarship, 50% scholarship for a Black mother here in the States that has been directly financially impacted by COVID. So you can go to my website as well and apply for the scholarship. But yes, like I said, I'm really excited.
If somebody wants to support a mother that is interested in taking the class, how would we do that?
That'd be amazing. That's a very good question. You can just email me at taylor@sistasam.com, and we can do something about that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So there might be 2 scholarships. Or 3.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Or 5. So if you're
great.
interested in supporting, like if this class might not be something that you're into, but a Black mother that would needs this, hit either Taylor up or me up, and we will coordinate and make sure that happens. Okay. And when does the class start?
The class starts on October 12th, and it'll end November 21st.
And the early bird pricing, you can go on the website to find out how much it costs, but the early bird pricing ends this weekend. So the prices go up on Monday. So if this is something you're into, please do not delay. If, like I said, this is not something you're into right now, but you know somebody that you want to support in this, like we all have to take care of each other. The second coming is community. Hit Taylor up at Sista, SISTA of the yam.com. Okay? Thank you so much, Taylor. It's so good to catch up with you. We got to catch up offline too. All right, and kiss the babies. Kiss the babies.
I will.
Kiss the babies. Love you. Thank you. We have to have you back on soon. All right, so this is the Envy McKee Show, of course. DJ Frosty Phoenix, Martin the Shaman. I'm Envy McKee. This is WURD 900 AM, 96.1 FM. When we're going to pay these bills, but when we come back, we're going to read a little bit from the book Howard Thurman, Jesus and the Disinherited. Okay, and then we'll have a little bit of conversation, and then we'll have Black Artistry 365 at some point. You feel me? You ready?
Feel you.
All right. All right, we'll be back.
Weather and traffic to keep you informed for your drive home in the happy hour with Sincerely Sarita, Monday through Thursday 4 till 7 p.m. right here on Word Radio 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
If you're eligible for Medicare in 2021, you could have a chance to win one of 4 great prizes, like dinner prepared by a local chef and home fitness equipment. When you enter to win, you'll also receive a free COVID-19 News You Need booklet. Visit www.ibxmedicare.com/healthy advice to enter. Independence Blue Cross offers products through its subsidiaries Independence Hospital Indemnity Plan, Keystone Health Plan East, and QCC Insurance Company, independent licensees of the Blue Cross and Blue Shield Association.
Be heard. Want another way to join the conversation? Follow us on social media using the hashtag onWURD. Be heard. Stay connected to Word Radio. Independent Black Media.
Family Therapy Vignette Moments with Dr. Lucille Ijoy. A couple wants to get married during this pandemic time. They've had spiritual counseling, guidance from their families, and they feel ready. Well, the therapist says, just be wise about your health and the health of your family and your guests, and take it step by step.
Always Best Care is a great place to work. Flexibility,
leadership, purpose,
great benefits.
There's never a dull moment.
Diversity, inclusion, compasión.
We love our jobs. If you're looking for a great place to work, you can join our compassionate Team Green. You can apply online at teamgreenabc.com or call 267-909-9248.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Join WAR, Philadelphia's Rape Crisis Center, on Saturday, September 26th for a virtual walk to end sexual violence. Any location, no set distance. With the pain of so many victims and survivors silenced or ignored, make the invisible visible by showing you care. To learn more about WAR or the virtual walk, visit the official website, www.woar.org.
Word TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at Forward. Word TV. Black Talk Media.
You're listening to the Envy McKee Show.
Welcome back to the Envy McKee Show. So, thank you again to Taylor from System of the Am for stopping through and giving us the skinny on her new class. Resilient Remedies. Like, I'm not playing with you. Like, we need to be, like, on top of our game. So if that's something that you're into, please make sure that you work it out. So as promised, I found this book through a class that I am taking at Agape. They have a whole university situation too. See, even the dean of Starfolk University continues to learn. See?
Teachers always still learn.
Right? And so I'm on my intention in taking these classes is at some point what Jason was before he was Reverend Jason was he was Agape licensed practitioner. And so that is my intention, that I'm going to steep myself in this metaphysical work to have as a credential a licensed practitioner. We'll see. That's the intention. You know, anything can change. But that's what I've been doing. And one of the luminaries that we have been learning in my root, the class is called The Roots of Agape, is we learned about Howard Thurman. Now, I'm familiar with Howard Thurman, and I had read some of his work before, but I had no idea that this very specific book, Jesus and the Disinherited, was a book that Martin Luther King kept with him as he was going through the tumultuous, there are so many curse words I want to use, but during the time of, you know, the work that he was doing for the civil rights movement. And I had no idea that his the person that steeped him in his teachings was Howard Thurman. And so I found on, I can't tell you the page because I will lose my place, but I found it's in the first chapter, and I'm going to read this part. It says, in the fall of 1935, I was serving as chairman of a delegation sent on a pilgrimage of friendship from the students of America to the students of India, Burma, and Ceylon. It was at a meeting in Ceylon that the whole crucial issue was pointed up to me in a way that I can never forget. At the close of a talk before the Law College, University of Colombo, on civil disabilities under states' rights in the United States, I was invited by the principal to have coffee. We drank our coffee in silence. After the service had been removed, he said to me, "What are you doing over here? I know what the newspapers say about a pilgrimage of friendship and the rest, but that is not my question. What are you doing over here? This is what I mean. More than 300 years ago, your forefathers were taken from the western coast of Africa as slaves. The people who dealt in the slave traffic were Christians. One of your famous Christian hymn writers, Sir John Newton, made his money from the sale of slaves to the New World. He is the man who wrote, 'How sweet the name of Jesus sounds, and amazing grace.' There may be others, but these are the only ones I know. The name of one of the famous British slave vessels was Jesus. The men who bought the slaves were Christians. Christian ministers, quoting the Christian apostle Paul, gave the sanction of religion to the system of slavery. Some 70 years or more, you were freed by a man who was not a professing Christian, but was rather the spearhead of certain political, social, and economic forces, the significance of which he himself did not understand. During all the period since, you have lived in a Christian nation in which you are segregated, lynched, and burned. Even in the church, I understand there is segregation. One of my students who went to your country sent me a clipping telling about a Christian church in which the regular Sunday worship was interrupted so that many could join a mob against one of your fellows. When he had been caught and done to death, they came back to resume their worship of their Christian God. I am a Hindu. I do not understand. Here you are in my country, standing deep within the Christian faith and tradition. I do not wish to seem rude to you, but sir, I think you are a traitor to all the darker peoples of the earth. I am wondering what you, an intelligent man, can say in defense of your position." Our subsequent conversation lasted for more than 5 hours. The clue to my own discussion was this probing, honest, sympathetic Hindu is found in my interpretation of the meaning of the religion of Jesus. It is a privilege, after so long a time, to set down what seems to be an essentially creative and prognostic interpretation of Jesus as religious subject rather than religious object. It is necessary to examine the religion of Jesus against the background of his own age and people, and to inquire into the content of his teaching with reference to the disinherited and the underprivileged. We begin with the simple historical fact that Jesus was a Jew. The miracle of the Jewish people is almost as breathtaking as the miracle of Jesus. Is there something unique, some special increment of vitality in the womb of the people out of whose loins he came that made him a logical flowering of a long development of racial experience, ethical in quality and godlike in tone? It is impossible for Jesus to be understood outside of the sense of community which Israel held with God. This does not take anything away from him, rather does it heighten the challenge which his life presents. For such reflection reveals him as the product of the constant working of the creative mind of God upon the life, thought, and character of a race of men. Here is one who was so conditioned and organized within himself that he became a perfect instrument for the embodiment of a set of ideals of such dramatic potency that they are capable of changing the calendar, rechanneling the thought of the world, and placing a new sense of rhythm of life in a weary, nerve-snapped civilization. How different might have been the story of the last 2,000 years on this planet, grown old from suffering, if the link between Jesus and Israel had never been severed. What might have happened if Jesus, so perfect a flower from the brooding spirit of God in the soul of Israel, had been permitted to remain where his roots would have been fed by the distilled elements accumulated by Israel's wrestling with God? The thought is staggering. The Christian church has tended to overlook its Judaic origins, but the fact that Jesus of Nazareth was a Jew of Palestine when he went about his father's business, announcing the acceptable year of the Lord. Of course, it may be argued that the fact that Jesus was a Jew is merely coincidental, that God would have expressed himself as easily and effectively in a Roman. True. But the fact is he did not. And it is with that fact that we must deal. There's so much more. There's so much more. He goes on to talk about Jesus was a poor Jew. Like the crux of this book, and I haven't really steeped myself in it yet, but the crux of this book is about the fact that Jesus was a poor Jew, that he was very much like African and indigenous peoples and people of color all over the world. He was us during that time. And our disconnection with the poor, our disconnection with our roots, our disconnection with our truth, our disconnection with our holiness, our innate holiness, is what this whole month has been about. And I think the reason why I read that specific part, even though it doesn't kind of like end with a flourish, you know what I'm saying? It's not a gotcha, is that that's where we are right now. Like where Howard Thurman was in the 60s writing this book, or the 50s, or whenever, is where we are right now. All the things that he said, those are things that we can say right now. And so many folks, I want to get to the part where he's like, well, you know, he was a mystic who followed the Christian faith, right? So we understand, we talked about this before in earlier shows, that, you know, being a mystic is different than being the, you know, orthodox in a particular faith. But that is a very important piece that I want to leave you with. Why are we still doing this? We're going to talk about that in next hour with Jason. But we're going to go pay these bills. Right? That's Martin Man. Try Man. That's DJ Frosty Phoenix. I'm Envy McKee. This is the Envy McKee Show on WURD. We'll be black.
Support independent black media and join the Forward movement now at 215-425-7875 or visit wordradio.com.
Dietz & Watson has been making premium meats and artisan cheeses for over 80 years. And when it comes to stacking sandwiches and party platters, they've got something for everyone in the family, like maple honey turkey breast, American cheese, buffalo chicken, and more. So get to your local deli and taste 4 generations of family recipes. With Dietz & Watson on the table, you'll have everyone coming back for seconds and thirds. Dietz & Watson, it's a family thing since 1939.
During these unprecedented times, we're creating a lot of extra trash, and that means delays across the city with curbside collection. That's why we have some simple tips that will help you to reduce curbside waste and collection delays. Reduce food waste by using garbage disposals or composting, and limit bulk waste to 2 items per household. Set out trash properly. That means using sturdy trash bags and covering containers with lids. Make sure your trash bags are not heavier than 40 pounds. Set out trash no earlier than 7 p.m. before your collection day and 7 a.m. the day of collection. And remember, you can drop off materials at sanitation convenience centers 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Last and most importantly, thank our sanitation workers for their hard work during these challenging times. We all have a role to play to curb our waste and help our city. Learn more at philadelphiastreets.com.
This is not a fad for us.
We will not resume our regular programming when things die down. We're not black to help our bottom line or because it's politically correct. We're not joining a fight. This has been our fight, our message, our people. Black lives have always mattered here. We are
Undeniably,
indefatigably, unapologetically, permanently Black Talk Media.
WURD.
I would like to play a little tune I just composed not so long ago.
Hey family, do you like hearing the best jazz selections aired by 3 of the best jazz announcers in Philadelphia? Well, tune in to 96.1 FM,
96.1 FM,
and 900 AM, WURD Radio, independent black media for Freedom Sounds of Jazz.
Freedom Sounds of Jazz.
Hear Freedom Sounds of Jazz 10 p.m. Fridays with your hosts in rotation, Aquila, Jonathan Bay, and David Fritz. That's 10 p.m. Friday nights on WURD 96.1 FM and 900 AM independent black media.
Home of the Happy Hour. The Happy Hour. With Sincerely Sarita. This is Word Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Streaming live at wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app. Word TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at Forward. Word TV. Black Talk Media.
Envy's evolution is the Envy McKee Show.
Hey, we're Philly's own Kindred, the family soul.
Hey, what's up? This is Kevin Carr.
Hey, this is Lady Alma.
This is Greg.
And Halana.
And we are the Woke Bays.
Yo, what's up? This your boy Genuine right here on the Envy McKee Show. And I always stay tuned.
Join the Envolution exclusively on Word.
Levine Isle Star people, it's Black History Month, all month long. And welcome back to another Black Excellence episode of Black Artist Story 365. In case you're new, the premise of this series goes like this. Black History Month is about celebrating Black excellence en masse throughout the month of February. And yet, it's important to remember and recognize that Black excellence spans all genre and all months of the year, which is why we celebrate Black history 365 days a year. My name? You know my name. It's Envy McKee. And in this series, we explore the change makers, the outliers, and the visionaries within Black diasporic culture, past and present. Just like with last season, we'll be exploring mostly the arts in this series, highlighting specific genres and the glorious Black folk who showed up to show out and take up space in a way that propels their art and the arts forward. From musicians and dancers to writers and their weird world-building selves to the finest of the fine artists, honey. The official name of this series is Black History, Arts and Artistry 365. But we go on ahead and call it Black Artist Story 365 because nobody, except me, is saying all them words. This month, we're still shaking it up a bit. In celebration of our newly founded Starfolk University, a school for modern mystics, we decided it is only fitting to honor up the colleges and universities that trailblazed this path we're on by educating Black folk and Starfolk when it was barely legal to do so, but also being the education and cultural foundation of so many of the artists that we look up to and have and will continue to highlight in this series. This week, we're honoring up HBCU majorettes. Because dance. Powered in part by Frederick McKendra of BuzzFeed News. You're welcome. As we mentioned in the first episode of this series, HBCUs were originally established in the late 1800s to transition African Americans into society towards the end of slavery. Not long after the establishment of these institutions, music programs were implemented into the curriculums, and the marching band became an important factor in HBCU culture and a source of entertainment. HBCU marching bands originally stuck to that of traditional military style until 1946, when Dr. William P. Foster began incorporating dance steps into the Florida A&M marching band routines. He completely changed the style of halftime performance by combining hip, up-to-date dance steps to more upbeat styles of music, such as ragtime and jazz. Through this break in tradition, Foster revolutionized the look of halftime performances and made room for majorettes, also known as dance line, now sometimes known as hip-hop majorettes. Hold your horses. I'll explain what hip-hop majoretting is in a moment. But first, when you think of HBCU dance line, you likely think of the iconic formation with the captain in front of 2 or 3 lines of dancers. The captain throws count, also known as throwing cadence or calls. She performs an 8 count of movement and then repeats that movement with the remainder of the team. Dance lines tend to perform these cadences in the stands, facing the field. Another typical feature of the HBCU dance line is the stadium entrance, when they lead the band onto the field in single file. Is Beyonce's recent Netflix concert film Homecoming coming to mind? Are you picturing her Coachella performance, which opens with an assemblage of majorette-inspired dancers clearing the way for Bey costumed as Nefertiti? Yes, honey, that's dance line. As peak hip-hop majoretting. HBCU marching bands had long featured carnivalesque acts, pulling acrobatic stunts or tossing and catching flaming batons as part of their halftime entertainment. But dance lines enabled bands to dramatize the popular songs they were beginning to mine from the radio. The name hip-hop majoretting is a recent invention, apparently, umbrella description for a tradition of movement defined by dance lines that have fronted the marching bands of historically Black colleges since the late 60s. Putting hip-hop in front of majorette is an outdated but necessary distinction meant to distinguish HBCU dance lines from more customary majorettes, women who march before traditional bands twirling batons. There is some dispute over which school's dance line debuted first, an issue that still regularly rouses debate from fans online. As the ability to watch Black college bands was often limited to spectators at sports games, Alcorn State University's claim that its Golden Girls made their national debut at a televised 1968 Orange Blossom Classic. This claim at least offers a tenuous origin date for hip-hop majorettes, or as the Golden Girls, the dance line, not the beloved TV show, call it, a featured squad with choreographed movements to an HBCU's marching band's live tunes. The Dancing Dolls of Southern University officially date back to 1969, founded by team advisor Coach Gracie Perkins and then band director Isaac Greggs. The Dolls have enjoyed national acclaim due to the annual Bayou Classic in New Orleans, which is one of the few nationally televised HBCU football games. Jackson State's J-Sets were founded in 1971 when Shirley Middleton, a former majorette and the squad's initial sponsor, petitioned for the majorettes to put their batons down. Middleton, along with JSU twirler and choreographer Hollis Pippins, and eventually sponsor Nara Otis, pioneered J-setting, a style so unique its movement is still recognizable in much of hip-hop majoretting today. Dance line has experienced sporadic, widespread exposure since the early 70s, mostly due to its proximity to the spectacle of the marching band. In the 1990 televised Motown retrospective, Motown 30, Jackson State University's band, the Sonic Boom of the South, and its J-Sets marched and performed at the Pantages Theater. Since 1991, NBC Sports has broadcast the Bayou Classic, offering a national audience glimpses of the sequined majorettes of Southern and Grambling State. In 2003, JSU again took the stage for a televised event, this time the NAACP Image Awards. The showmanship and glamour of the majorettes has always been the export of the Black community. Carnivals that traveled to sites across the landscape of the Great Migration, carrying the football teams of Southern Black schools who once, out of necessity, produced most Black college graduates in America. The classics became essential marketing once athletic programs from formerly segregated all-white state universities, the same schools that had necessitated the founding of historically Black colleges in the first place, became integrated and began gutting the football programs of those HBCUs as they looked for recruits. In a way, the band produced proto-music videos, pairing choreography with popular Black music from the radio. Black entertainment was again being deployed to ensure the survival of Black institutions. As for HBCU majorettes, aka Dance Line, aka Hip Hop majoretting, more than a dance team, they're a force, a movement, a subculture that was shaped, fashioned, and formed by and for Black women, though a whole subsect of Black gay men have adopted it as well. Previously defined solely by the twirling batons and drum major type uniforms, in the hands of Black women, majorette has been transformed and expanded as an artistic style of its own, whose routines sing just as loudly as the instruments blaring behind them, and have become an irreplaceable and iconic part of HBCU band culture, and HBCU culture in general. Point blank, period. Okay? And there's so much more. Hip-hop majoretting has become its own thing, worthy of its own Black Artist Story 365 episode. But we out of time, so look for that in a future series. So that's it for this week's third episode of Season 2 of Black History, Arts and Artistry 365, aka Black Artist Story 365, because nobody except me is saying all them words. My name is Envy McKee. See you next week when we highlight another aspect, yes, of HBCU culture. Honey, it's a different world than where you come from. That's right, I know. We will be highlighting a different world. Shout out to Hillman, graduate. Yes. So you are familiar that is a Flashback Friday that happened some time ago. Welcome back to the Envy McKee Show. Envy McKee, DJ Frosty Phoenix, Martin the Shaman. So I always love listening back to the olden days Black Artist Story 365 because I'm reminded of the things I was reminded of when we first produced the episode. So we have all new Black Artist Story 365 episodes starting next month with our new shift prompt. We're going into October. So, and we have some really cool things in the works for Black Artist Story 365 too. So we need new episodes and I'm really excited. So hi. So thank you. So Eric and rather DJ Frosty Phoenix and Martin the Shaman, Eric and Martin, you guys have been really, really quiet. I know that it's already been kind of packed already. So you're first of all,
you just got back on the air. Like
no, I'm just in general. I
was trying to let you talk.
Same, dude. Like,
like what?
Guest and an excerpt. What were we gonna say for real?
Right.
Right.
Well, but I'm just saying, like, I feel like I've been doing a lot of talking. So
I mean,
the sister that was talking about this, it was excellent, by the way. How do you say the word? Apothecary.
Apothecary. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that word. I see 3 or 4 of those in my neighborhood. I walk around Philadelphia. Actually, I saw one not too far from the radio station, and I always liked seeing that word versus seeing a pharmacy.
Right.
So But the but part is the people that I'm seeing that word have, they're not really, they don't have any herbs. They're not doing it. They're not Pen Herb Store. Pen Herb Store doesn't call itself that. It just says Pen Herb Store. So that was really interesting. But there was nothing. I don't think I could have added anything to that conversation. I did have some questions for her around, but I felt like we probably need to have a separate conversation around postpartum. And I think that would have been an interesting diversion conversation. So I didn't want to take off.
We can have listen, we can have her
because she
back.
acknowledged it, and I don't know that many women that acknowledge it. So I think that's interesting that she acknowledged it.
Absolutely. I mean,
Well,
think about it.
absolutely nothing. I guess a lot of people are like,
you're growing a whole human in your body,
yes,
and then the human leaves.
Yes.
And you are left with no
empty,
sleep.
Barren.
You know what I'm saying? You have to take care of this new human, and you have to take care of
That's
yourself.
outside your body.
But let's be clear. A lot of what goes on with postpartum depression is also linked with the stress of having to just pop back. Like in lots of cultures, you have 30 days where you just lay in the bed and feed the baby. That's all you do. That's all you do is lay in the bed. In this country, it's like, all right, back to work.
What's interesting, fathers have been given time off now. The average company, I don't mean small business, but the average large company does give fathers 30 days off, and I think that's, and some companies do 60. And I think the top companies like law firms or accounting firms do 90. So, and the fathers are all like, yeah, I'm off. I'm their dad. So, and I know the wives are like,
but what I'm saying is,
I had C-section. I'm still feeling pain.
In this country, we do not acknowledge rest as valuable and valid.
What we should do? We should do a campaign around rest is wealth.
Listen, that's what the NAP ministry does. That's what that is the whole function of the NAP ministry. It's rest as resistance.
I think
rest
that
is
will
part
stop
of
some of the gun violence too.
Sitting your behind down and taking a nap.
Because they're on Fortnite or whatever, they're up there. There's a lot of stuff that's happened during the, you can look at their face. Well, I shouldn't say they. I was at a private conversation with young men who have gun charges. They haven't been to court yet, so their cases are still up. They have to come to this program and listen to people like us, ask them questions or interact with males that they're not normally going to interact with. And it was real interesting. They were all under 17, and about 20 of them. And, when they sit down in that room, they were look like they were exhausted. Like, you out here running the streets, capping off at someone. And unfortunately, 5 of them, they go, this time they're going to court, they may end up going to prison, not juvie. Prison is the only time they actually sit down and meditate and think about. And so I like the fact.
But are we sitting down and meditating?
And being quiet.
Are we sitting down and meditating in prison, or are we, stressed out?
If the opportunity is there. That's what I mean. But I'm saying, to your point about rest, is that that's something that is not advocated in the country, but also our community. It isn't, taking a nap isn't something people look at as cool.
It isn't. And then also, preventative medicine, also herbal medicine, also holistic.
Talk therapy.
You know what I'm saying? Medicine. Yeah. I like that that Taylor framed the conversation.
Oh, yeah, she was excellent.
With wellness.
Good call.
And because that's what this is about. It's like you recognize that the body is a ecosystem. It's a whole ecosystem. So it's more than just treating a cough, because the things that we're used to doing, oh, you have a fever, take a Tylenol. We're not used to researching why you have a fever. You know what I'm saying? What is causing your body to need to react in this very specific way? What does your body need? What herbs can help you get back into balance? And Dr. Carol Penn talked about that last week as well. She talked briefly about that. I want to, as we prepare to open the Woo Woo Metaphysical Studio in a few minutes, I want for us, and when we come back, Eric, can you play the Tamika audio?
Mallory.
Yeah, Tamika. So I want to talk about, we're not necessarily talking about Breonna Taylor. and the lack of justice for her unnecessary death, for her murder, right? But we are going to talk about that briefly, but we're talking, remember, our shift prompt for this month is the art of being holy. So we are going to talk about what's going on in the world, and we are going to bring Jason Mitchell into the fold of this conversation. And we are, working through, the idea that holiness is a path and authenticity is kind of what we need to be. We need to be our whole, full, authentic selves. And, understanding that holiness is a part of that whole, full, authentic self. But it's really hard to be authentic when you don't feel safe in your own skin. So we're unpacking that a little bit. How do we transcend not feeling safe in our own skin? And then further, we really need to have this conversation. We are in an abusive relationship with our country of origin. Well, it's not our origin, but our country of living presently. We're in an abusive relationship. And in every other abusive relationship, we say, girl, get the hell out of there. But we here. And I understand why we here. I understand. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be here. I'm just saying, is it time for us now to pull out and blow off the Marcus Garvey books and the Black Star, cruise line and whatnot, and start thinking about a mass exodus, or finding a way to, I don't know. All I know is we cannot break down the master's house with the tools master used to build it. And that's us. So take that, roll it around in your awareness. When we come, are you reverend yet, Jason?
Smoking in your pipe.
Not reverend yet. But I'm gonna call you reverend anyway, because it's already
speaking into existence.
It's
Gosh,
like
darn it.
it's gotta be Sunday or something. It's a cause set in motion. It's already done. So
right, exactly.
When we come back,
I'm living in 2020.
Reverend Jason Mitchell, we're gonna celebrate your reverendhood. Will be joining us. We'll open the Woo Metaphysical Studio and all that good stuff. This is the Envy McKee Show. Martin the Man, DJ Frosty Phoenix.
Hallelujah.
I keep calling you Martin the Man, Martin the Shaman. Jason Mitchell will open the Woo Metaphysical Studio when we come back. This is the Envy McKee Show, a.k.a. Starfolk University on WURD, 900 AM, 96.1 FM. We'll be black all day.
Get your money straight.
Get my money right.
With Solomon Jones and Akbar Hassan.
Fridays on Wake Up with Word.
7 a.m. till 10 a.m. Hosted by Solomon Jones. Exclusively on Word Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Streaming live on wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
But they've got the experience.
I'm still in shock 3 or 4 years later that we're in this position now. Our democracy is at a pivotal point.
From the top, we don't trust our government. We see the trouble we're in economically. We've got 170,000 Americans dead, and yet this president will do anything he can to make it seem like things are better than they are.
I did more for the black community than anybody with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln.
It's our responsibility. If we don't lead that effort to make things better, we can't ask other people to do it. There is no good reason not to vote.
Right, we need to have individuals that are in office like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
They are our best shot to take us forward.
And that's what makes me incredibly hopeful, but we really do have to work for this thing.
To the thousands who did not vote, we need you to show up for our future and for our country.
You cannot sit on the sidelines. You got to get in the game.
Paid for by Biden for president.
Livelihood. The new initiative from Word Radio, connecting Philadelphians to jobs, entrepreneurship opportunities, small business resources, and financial literacy. Visit WURDworks.com right now and take the next step in your professional journey.
Work, 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 work. To me, I be work.
Livelihood is supported by the Nightland Fest's Local News Transformation Fund, Borealis Philanthropies Racial Equity and Journalism Fund, and the Solutions Journalism Network. Listen live at wordradio.com.
Word Radio presents the following information to help you navigate the up-and-coming election. Still concerned about COVID-19 and voting in person? Pennsylvania has you covered with mail-in ballots. Simply submit a completed ballot by mail. So long as you request that mail-in ballot between now and October 27th, go to votespa.com and apply for your mail-in ballot today. When your ballot arrives, read it carefully and follow the instructions to complete it and return it. You can also track and confirm that your County Board of Elections has received the mail-in ballot by going to votespa.com. For more information on how to vote in Pennsylvania, visit states.aarp.org/Pennsylvania. Vote early. Word Radio presents the following information to help you navigate the up-and-coming election. Stay informed and vote. For more from Charles Ellison, tune in Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. or visit wordradio.com.
Word TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now.
Tune in on YouTube at onWURD
or on Facebook at Forward.
Word TV.
Black Talk Media.
You're listening to the Envy McKee Show.
At the press conference, which I thought was quite interesting, that he's a black man. And as I laid and cried and hurt for Tamika Palmer and for Breonna Taylor and for Kenny Walker and for Janiyah, who we need to love up on, as I laid there and I thought about him saying he's a black man, I thought about the ships that went into Fort Monroe and Jamestown with our people on them over 400 years ago. And how there were also black men on those ships that were responsible for bringing our people over here. Daniel Cameron is no different than the sellout Negroes that sold our people into slavery.
She said it.
And helped white men to capture our people, to abuse them, and to traffic them while our women were raped, while our men were raped by savages. That is who you are, Daniel Cameron. You are a coward, you are a sellout, and you were used by the system to harm your own mama, your own black mama. We have no respect for you. No respect for your black skin. Because all of our skin folk ain't our kin folk. And you do not belong to black people at all.
So Tamika took the in the race draft. She basically said, "We're giving back Cameron," and
I don't even think it's that low of a joke or respect.
We didn't ever have him. We didn't ever have him.
Right. That's what I'm gonna say. I'm like, Tamika, he wasn't even on our side.
Disown, right? Like Envy said, they were even having disown is even a level of acknowledgement that he was part of your team in the first place.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So welcome back to the Envy McKee Show. Before we invite the new Reverend, I want to open the Woo Woo Metaphysical Studio. Blessing this space. Knowing this is a space of purity. Space of love. Woo woo! So the Woo Woo Metaphysical Studio is officially open. What are the phone lines, Eric?
215-634-8065. Toll free 1-866-361-0900.
Gives me so much joy.
I don't
now
know
I would
why.
love to welcome. Like to welcome.
Well, I do. It's the Woo Woo movie phone voice.
Yes. It is.
Eyes rolling so hard for those kids on the radio.
Reverend Jason Mitchell of Agape. He's an Agape International Spiritual Center licensed practitioner. He is our Dean of Spiritual Literacy. We always invite him on the fourth Friday to help us wrap this shift prompt up. And this month we are talking about the art of being holy. And we, through the last two shows that we have done on this series, we have discovered that holiness is more of a path. It's, of course, it's something that we already are, but it's kind of like, it's a path of becoming. It's a path of uncovering. It's what we already are, but the work that we're doing is like just clearing out the muck of what we thought we were so that we can, let shine what's already there. And so in that regard, it's a path, but it's not like I'm walking down the path, it's not like that. It's just, it's one of those metaphysical paths. It is an ether path, I guess. Let's not ramble. But I want to talk specifically to Jason because, and it's important that we started this conversation with that clip about Tamika talking about DA Cameron Dude and Breonna Taylor in that regard, is that over the course, even of COVID, over the course of the last 401 years, we have not felt safe in our own skin. And so now we're kind of at the precipice where things are coming to its head. We are birthing this new thing, and we are watching this old thing die at the same time. And we're also watching people that don't want this old thing, meaning the world and that old mind wave, who don't want it to go away. We're watching them cling on to it. And so there are lots of things for dear life. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot going on, and we're tired. And I'm sitting here, I was thinking about this in our earlier meeting. I was like, we in an abusive relationship with this country. And the advice that we give women, men who are in abusive relationships are, excuse me, girl, it's time for you to go. And if you don't leave, he going or she going to kill you. We say that out loud, and we're in this abusive relationship, and we're watching, people kill Black people every single day with impunity. They are already killing us. The abusers are killing us, and we stay here. So is there some thoughtfulness to revisiting what Marcus Garvey was talking about? Maybe a mass exodus is in order, because we built this country. Everything about this country was built on our backs. Even the systems that they put in place were put in place on our backs to continue to keep us in this caste system, this cycle of poverty and low, totem pole and less than human and all of those things. It was deliberate, based on us. Everything that this country is based on us and keeping us in our quote unquote place. And the beautiful part is that we refuse to find that place. But even our gorgeous Black culture is a function of rising up above oppression. And so I'm wondering if maybe we just need to reconsider. Maybe you don't tear down the master's house with the same tools that master used to build it. And that's us. We were the tools to build master's house. Maybe we need to remove ourselves from this equation. Is that something that we can do? Is that part of, but I also understand that we incarnated at a time such as this to help break down this. But can we do it from somewhere else? Like Zimbabwe? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm rolling this around. I'm not making any declarations, but I really need, and I'm sure lots of us listening need some insight here. And so by throwing all of those things out, I'm wondering if Jason could add something to help soothe the soul here.
So, yes, no, maybe, possibly, whether we wanted to or not. So yes, those things are showing up in the world. Those things are the experiences of non-white and non-poor people. Yes, that is an experience that people are having. No, it is not going to be something that we can simply extricate ourselves, because let's not pretend that the impact of what America does is not also in Zimbabwe.
Right.
Let's not pretend that America isn't mucking up things in Korea. So where are you going to go? Right. So let's not pretend like the impact of whatever political administration, Bush 1, Bush 2, Reagan, Clinton, Obama, Trump, have not all at some point marginalized a group of people of color. To pretend that even during the Obama administration that people of color were not being marginalized is to pretend that we didn't see what we saw. And it's unfortunate because that's just how complex it is.
Yeah.
There is no way to be honest and authentic and approach this complex system and not accept that on some level all of the players have done something that we would consider a violation. And so if that's the place, let's go to our original conversation that you've been holding, which is this concept or this idea of holiness. And to hold holiness in your consciousness is to hold something that most people cannot hold. Holiness is like trying to hold the scepter. Holiness is like trying to hold, Thanos's glove. Everybody can't wear it.
Listen.
Holiness is something that has nothing to do with you as a human being. So it's not your body, it's not your mind, it's not your hips, it's not your weave, it's not your nose, it's not your complexion. These things are not aspects of holiness in terms of qualification or disqualification. All of it is holy. Existence itself is holy. So until we take a couple of steps back, and we do as one of my teachers, Reverend Joanne Coleman, said, the very idea of innocent until proven guilty is a spiritual idea. The very ideas that undergird the principles, not the Constitution, but what's underneath the Constitution. What's underneath these things are so different than basing things on qualifications based on humanities and how it has shown up. So until we do that, we really can't have a conversation about holiness, but we're going to have a conversation about holiness because Frosty Phoenix is holy. He may not see himself as holy. He may not acknowledge himself as holy, but there's a dynamic and an energy and a fire and a light that has his very being. He's holy.
Yes.
If I acknowledge him as holy, you know who else is holy? I'll start with his best friend. Kim Jong-un is holy.
Right.
But they're not holy because of their acts. They're not holy because of their behavior. They're not holy because they, cyanide's not holy because it's cyanide. Everything in existence is sourced from holiness, from the thing. But that doesn't mean it shows up or is wielded or is utilized as holiness. Water is healing, water is revitalizing, but if I freeze a brick of ice, which once was water, and smack you upside the head with it in a violent way, doesn't really feel healing and cleansing.
But it's still holy.
Still holy.
A holy brick upside your head.
A holy brick
I think you're almost
which
answering.
Is what it feels like. Go ahead.
I think you're almost answering. We read from Howard Thurman. what's the name of the book? You know what I'm talking about.
Meditations of the Heart.
No, Jesus and the Disinherited.
Jesus and okay, yeah.
And the part where he's talking to the Hindu principal, he went on some pilgrimage, and the principal basically ran it down. He was like, y'all live in, basically what I said, y'all are in an abusive relationship with America, and not more than America, you're in an abusive relationship with all these Christians who did all of these things, and you still want to call yourself a Christian? What's wrong with you?
Absolutely.
And I love that you said it doesn't matter what not that it doesn't matter, but holiness is not a function of what you do. It is already there because you come from holiness, period. Now, whether you understand where you come from, whether you know who you are, that's your problem. Mm-hmm. And so when the disconnection comes from, and we talked about this on the show, like I have been kind of a spiritual anthropologist looking back as far as I could go and looking for that first act before, we talk about 1619 is when chattel slavery actually started, like the precursor, but actually it was like 1441, where that first dude from Portugal, the sailor, was like, let's up these antes, let's steal some people. And then from that standpoint, when he stole those people, he basically gave them a choice. You can be our slaves and we're going to sell you, or you can go find us 10 people. And then that's where they said, oh, let's find these black people. And you know what I'm saying? And that's kind of where this whole thing started. And more than that, the Prince Henry of Portugal then was like, oh, you know what? I see it. He saw the vision. He saw the vision of chattel slavery. So that's when European chattel slavery.
So you're trying to say that holiness is not, again, I'm probably repeating this again, even though this is closing up the conversation of the month, that holiness isn't just divine good and everything, that holiness is a part of the whole of the pulse of the universe and everybody has a role to play.
Yes.
Well,
and that
it's one step before that, right? Mm-hmm. So let me bring a name up into my head. Let's pretend that and let's use just let's anchor in an idea that Issa Rae, let's use Issa Rae and make her George Lucas. And let's imagine a universe in which she creates universes of stories and cultures and tales. All of them come from their source. Their source is Issa Rae. Issa Rae in this scenario is holy because God is holy. So all of them within their creation, all of us are holy. Now the path that they take once she passes the production off to Warner Brothers, passes the production off to 20th Century Fox, is on Warner Brothers and 20th Century Fox. But the source that created them from a place of holiness. That's the source of all existence when we come from this conversation.
Well, I think part of the confusion is that we look at holiness as like piousness. We look at it as an action. Being above reproach, sitting in a cave and not making any mistakes or whatever the case. But the reality is holiness is just a function of our existence because, if you look at, if you look at God as the ocean and we're buckets of the ocean, we're buckets of God. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't, just because you take a bucket of the ocean doesn't make it any less of the ocean. But that being said, I think also there's a choice, and the point, I think the place that I continue to go with this conversation is that when we were reading this Kabbalist book, the 42-letter name of God, we were looking at how we make choices. Like, we're holy, great, but we make choices, and our ego, the adversary, whatever you want to call it, when our greed will get the best of us, and then that causes this rift, this disconnection where we forget ourselves. And then from that path of forgetting ourselves, we begin to congregate as people who forget ourselves, not unlike cancer, because cancer is not a virus, it's just your cells attacking you. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. It's just not foreign.
Right, it's not foreign. It's you. Cancer is a part of you. It's your cells that went rogue. And so we're looking at, in our humanity, if you're looking at, you know, the humanity as an ecosystem, some of our cells went rogue for money.
Cancer in and of itself is such a great illustration device in terms of talking about how things happen, in terms of talking about the DA in Kentucky,
Yep.
and looking at things and not showing them. Just because they're a part of this body doesn't mean they're not trying to destroy the body.
The body, because the cancer doesn't do. If you let cancer to its own devices, it kills you. It doesn't stop until the whole thing is dead. And if you look at everything that's going on this planet, it's not stopping because they don't have when you say conservative, they're not conserving anything. They're literally going to consume everything until it's dead. That's cancer.
And it's not outside. It's not
outside.
Outside.
And hold those thoughts.
I just want to throw one thing before we go to which is that the premise, though, that we're talking about, there's another side to that premise that even proves your point better, and that's capitalism and the gentrification of that neighborhood. They were given a direct order.
That's T's, right? That's our T's for when we
that's
come
our
back.
T's. So when we come back, we'll dig into that a little more. All right, so this is the MV McKee Show. We're in the Woo Woo Metaphysical Studio.
And we have 2 calls on the line.
Oh, awesome. So we're going to take your calls. Reverend Jason Mitchell, our Dean of Spiritual Literacy, is here. DJ Frosty Phoenix, Martin the Shaman. I'm MV McKee. This is WURD. We'll be black
all day.
Former Vice President Joe Biden.
We have to let people know we're listening, that we not only understand their struggle, but they understand the fact they deserve to be treated with dignity.
Senator Kamala Harris.
Part of the point of freedom is to be free from brutality, from injustice, from racism, and all of its manifestations.
But they're not getting a chance now.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have a real plan for police reform.
It means creating a national standard on use of force and conditioning federal funds for police departments on adoption of that standard. It's about giving the United States Department of Justice the subpoena power to investigate systemic police misconduct.
And that's what we're going to do. We're going to change that. I really mean it. I believe with every fiber in my being, we have such an opportunity now to change people's lives for the better. I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
It's easier than ever to get the right health coverage for families of all sizes.
This is Bonnie, Ronnie, Tani, Johnny.
Penny gets you covered. Millennials, gig workers, virtual birthday partiers.
Grandma, you're on mute.
Penny gets you all covered. Penny helps you compare plans, get financial assistance, and purchase health insurance that fits your life. Get covered at PENNIE.com.
Be heard. Want another way to join the conversation?
Follow us on social media
using the hashtag onWURD.
Be heard.
Stay connected to Word Radio.
Independent Black Media.
Trump spends his time golfing, while COVID-19 hits the black community hard. It's not just wrong, it's immoral. We need Joe Biden. Joe takes COVID-19 seriously and understands the economic and health impact it's had on our community. Joe will listen to the medical experts, and he will protect Obamacare. Trump, he won't even wear a mask. Request a ballot now. Make a plan to vote. Our lives depend on it. Paid for by Ask Me People, which is responsible for the content of this ad. AskMePeople.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
The Word Radio newsletter, keeping you informed, engaged, and connected. Sign up by visiting wordradio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page and type your email address under Connect with Us. You'll receive the latest information on Word Radio. Messages from our president and CEO, Sarah Lomax Reese. Exclusive articles and multimedia content and resources. Stay informed with the Word Radio newsletter. Word TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at @ForWord. Word TV. Black Talk Media.
You're listening to the MV McKee Show.
look at the sky. It's the color of love. You gave me the kiss of life. Kiss of life. You gave me the kiss that's life. Kiss of life. You gave me the kiss of life. Kiss of life. You gave me the kiss that's life. Kiss of life.
Welcome back to the MV McKee Show. MV McKee, DJ Frosty Phoenix, Martin the Shaw Man, Reverend Jason Devion Mitchell.
Is that your
In
face?
the-
Is that your face when you're gonna come out, like, you know, before you get announced?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Comes out, walks out, hands, just stern face. Welcome.
Oh, I love it so much. I see you, your fresh locks.
Hey,
You got
look,
all it.
my minister dances literally every
Yes.
Sunday right now.
Dance with Rev.
After his sermon, he does Dance with the Rev. There is no box into which this teaching, my life as a minister, has been placed. Like, I really do appreciate Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith, because any idea of like it has to be super solemn and you know, if you have lint on your collar, you should not be speaking before the highness of the highness, has been thrown out without also disrespecting or anything like that. But he has encouraged us to break boundaries and social norms, and to hold a higher and more expanded idea of this thing, which we call spirit, which we call God.
And it makes me think about music, or religious music becoming more quote unquote secular, or different pastors having different ways of preaching, like, or online. Like the one brother, I think, is like, we got this church on something on Instagram that I follow. Like he has a different way. I forget what the brother's name is, but his preaching is different. So that made me think about that as far as being holy and the different approach that you take now in this body of different ways of worship.
Absolutely. I mean, well, you got to get your WAP on, right? You have to get your worship and praise on.
Worship and praise. Got you. Got you. Got you.
I was waiting for somebody to
Worship
bring that
and
in.
praise.
I was waiting.
Calm down.
I'm waiting for
Worship
the
and
Mary version of that.
Oh,
I guarantee them
you
to.
bet. Yo, Mark, and that's family, because Erica's husband is Warren Campbell, and literally from when we were infants in the same church. He grew up in my grandfather's church, King's Chapel Apostolic Church. His father was a deacon in my grandfather's church. So that's family right there. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So it's in your blood, Reverend. It's in
Blame
your
on the
blood,
alcohol
blood.
producer will be producing the Christian and praise version.
Well, I mean, you know.
Okay, so let's bring it back. Let's bring it back. Bring it back.
The last comment, my brother did produce for Death Row, but continue.
Amen. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord.
Before the break, we were talking. First of all, we have calls. We have calls. Let's do calls.
We have JB from Philly. What's going on, JB?
God bless. How is everyone?
Blessed and favored, brother.
Give God the glory. And thank you for your show. Give thanks for the WRD family. As always, our brother DJ Frosty Phoenix, Eric Nixon on the boards.
You're
doing an exemplary and amazing job every time. And God bless all the victims. You know, our hearts are with them. And everyone working to make it better. And thank you for your subject matter. I was just going to chime in a couple of things, if that's all right.
Sure.
More love. As far as repatriation, you know it's in the scripture, point blank, plain black and white. Flee Babylon. And it says it more than once. So it's like fleeing the plantation. problem comes in. How many of us wanted to stay there? Even worse, how many wanted to actually thwart our efforts to be free. That's sad. But you ever read that book by the Empress named Unconquered?
What's the name of the book?
Unconquered.
I have not.
Neither have I. But it talks about how we left the plantation and formed our own communities and societies free from this enslavement. Similar to the people they call the Maroons in Jamaica and all over the world. So it lets you know that it can be done. So when it's in your heart to do it, do it. Don't be discouraged. I think Harriet Tubman, one aspect of her brilliance is she realized that us staying in the system is what keeps it going. And that when we're out of the system, like we divest out of South Africa, it has to starve itself. I was going to mention, too, not to argue, but to say this, in my opinion, Christians ain't enslaved nobody, because Christians don't enslave people. Enslavers enslave people. And people call themselves whatever they want. That don't mean they it. And it's also,
Oh, right. That was the word right there.
it's just not true. It's plain and simple. And it's I can't call myself holy, and I don't define what holy is. But as far as holy, you know, in the book of Leviticus, at least from chapter 11 onward, Jah say Jah's holy. Jah tell us as Jah people to be holy. And then Jah give us plain black and white rules on being holy. You know what I mean? And then you go into Deuteronomy, you find that our reluctance and refusal to adhere to those rules, Jah was like, all right, well, I'm selling you off. You're going to go serve those that worship wood and stone. So there's biblical precedent to the situation we're in. And it's about us, I say, it's about us returning to Jah, indeed in full, in spirit and in truth, with repentance, in order to get free. I would also say this. One time I was speaking with somebody, and they said they were traveling. So I was going to wish them safe travels. Where they going? They told me the Holy Land. I had to check them. I said, all land is holy. I'll talk to y'all later.
All right, brother.
much,
Fair
baby.
point.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All
That's
right.
that old school. That's that old school.
Right?
That's the KRS wisdom.
Right?
Yeah. I think that's about 4 or 5 points that JB dropped tonight right there.
Okay, who else we
We
got?
need to get a beat for that.
So
right?
Go ahead.
Play it
Cut
back
that
and put it
let's
to a beat.
Right.
Put it on social media.
Yeah, I'll work on
even
that.
his cadence was hip hop.
I have to find a slow beat. I have to find a slow beat for that one. It's hard. It's there, but I see where you're coming from. And then we have a good friend, David from Chicago.
Oh, David
How y'all
Jones,
doing?
my classmate.
Hey, Miss Indy.
We're both so David and I are both on the what Jason used to be. Jason is a reverend now, but he began as an agape licensed spiritual practitioner, and David and I are both, as I mentioned earlier.
Don't get it twisted.
Huh?
Always a practitioner. Don't get it twisted.
Okay. So David and I are both in the same class that I was talking to you earlier about. So hey, David, how you doing?
How you doing, girl?
Honey.
How's it going?
There's so much subtext in that honey.
Yes.
David and I
Yes,
have 5
Lord.
weeks worth of honey.
Hello.
Y'all got class starting next week. Stop playing.
I know we got another class next week. Yep, Reverend Michael's class. But we're not getting off track. So what's up, Dave?
It's good to be here. Congratulations to Jason Mitchell. I feel like I have taken this journey with him. And he has been really holding a fort on the Our Daily Prayer Call. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to see what God is going to do to, with, and through him. I'm geeked.
Thank you, brother. I feel the same way. I was having a conversation with some people out. They have a community called Soul Center OC out in Orange County, and I, up until COVID started for almost 4 years, I spoke once a month out at that community, and I was telling them, and I will tell you, as I told the ODPC family the other day, is that the people like you, including the MV McKee Show family, have seeded so much into my life, and very much who I am and who I'm becoming and the stand that I take as a minister is because of all of these outlets that have been inlets that have both fed me and allowed me to express that which is moving through me in a better way. I know that I'm more qualified in terms of my own confidence in being able to articulate, express, understand, transform, heal my own self because of what I've been able to do for communities and people and spaces and places, instead of just waiting until I'm done before people allow me the opportunity to do things. People have put their trust in me, their confidence in me, their faith in me, and when they do that, we're putting our faith in the same thing, which is the presence, and things have been really, really powerful. So thank you, Brother David.
So David, hold that thought. Whatever you're gonna say, because that was like I know you had something else to say. I know because I've gotten to know you. So hold that thought.
Oh, you know David got something to say. So
right.
David got something to say.
Hold that thought. Put a pin in that. And Jason, you put a pin in that. We gotta go pay these bills.
So proud of you.
So, yay! That is DJ Frosty Phoenix. That's Martin the Shaman. That is Reverend Jason. That is David. And I am Envy. And we're gonna go be black. We'll be black. This is the Envy McKee Show.
We'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
Justice, equality, accountability. These are the values we need in our leaders to bring us together and be the America we know we can be. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are those leaders. Joe Biden has the experience to fix our broken economy. He's done it before and he'll do it again. And our own Kamala Harris is ready to lead. As senator, she championed education, health care, and criminal justice reform. And with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in charge, we know the White House will be accountable to our community. For 4 years, our country has been run by inexperience and corruption, but we have the chance to turn it around with values rooted in our common goals and the leadership of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Paid for by Black PAC and Unite the Country. www.blackpac.com and www.unitethecountry.com, which are responsible for the content of this advertising, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
What's up, everyone? I know you know the word, no, not the station, but this word, J-O-B that is, and our friends at Amoroso's Baking Company are hiring right now. Amoroso's has been baking the delicious bread in our community for over 100 years, and they want you to join their team today. The old and the young love Amoroso's, and they are hiring right now. Check it out. They offer fair pay and provide health, dental, and prescription plans after 90 days employment. Call 856-754-0355 or visit amorososbaking.com for details.
During these unprecedented times, we're creating a lot of extra trash, and that means delays across the city with curbside collection. That's why we have some simple tips that will help you to reduce curbside waste and collection delays. Reduce food waste by using garbage disposals or composting, and limit bulk waste to 2 items per household. Set out trash properly. That means using sturdy trash bags and covering containers with lids. Make sure your trash bags are not heavier than 40 pounds. Set out trash no earlier than 7 p.m. before your collection day and 7 a.m. the day of collection. And remember, you can drop off materials at sanitation convenience centers 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Last and most importantly, thank our sanitation workers for their hard work during these challenging times. We all have a role to play to curb our waste and help our city. Learn more at philadelphiastreets.com.
Did you get an eviction notice before the shutdown? Are you looking for a lawyer once the moratorium ends? There's so many questions with so little time. Let Equally Informed Philly find the answers for you. Just text the phrase Equal Info to the number 73224. Again, that's Equal Info, one word, to 73224. Their community information line will get the answers you need to survive in the time of COVID-19. Equally Informed Philly for all Philadelphians.
lifting every voice till earth and heaven ring. This is Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Black Talk Media. Word TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at forward. Word TV. Black Talk Media. Envy's evolution is the Envy McKee Show.
Hey, we're Philly's own Kindred, the family soul.
Hey, what's up? This is Kevin Carr.
Hey, this is Lady Alma.
This is Greg.
And Halana.
And we are the Woke Bays.
Yo, what's up? This your boy Genuine right here on the Envy McKee Show. Now, always stay tuned.
Join the Envolution exclusively on Word.
The other world he saw my turn gold and reptile. I dreamed all night, red and
I know who this is, but who is that?
Nah, go ahead. You know who it is.
Well, who is that?
No, who is it?
I can't remember. Who
Come
is
on
it?
now.
Moonchild?
No, the other opposite. It's like one of three groups that we have the similar system with the tone and the follow-up music.
Hiatus Coyote?
Thank you.
There it
No,
is.
actually four because we got a quadrant. So it's like four we have. Because we
That
have
was hiatus, right?
Yeah, that was hiatus. We have hiatus. We have Moonchild. We have
Flying
the
Lotus.
internet.
Yes.
And Flying Lotus was for 5. I'm just talking about in the playlist. I'm talking about in the playlist.
Toss more in there,
Got like
man.
four.
That's a great place to be. I saw Flying Lotus at the Hollywood Bowl. They passed out 3D glasses.
Oh,
It
did
was
they?
amazing.
Can we?
do a 3D concert live?
Because you do laser lights and like laser production at night once the sun goes down at the Hollywood Bowl, and so then they shoot. They broadcast laser projections into the sky from the stage.
When are we getting back to all that? Some things we
I
can.
know, right?
Some things we can get back to. Some things we just that just need to stay in the dumpster fire of 2020. Other things we would like to get back to next year.
Here,
And
that's
DC
a
right
perfect.
now, they doing
This is a
concerts,
perfect place for you to play that clip. If we had just stayed in
Amen.
for 2 weeks, all we
Yeah.
had to do. First of all, welcome back to the Every Bikini
Oh.
Show. If we had just stayed in for the 2 weeks prescribed, we would not be going into October still fighting and clamoring. Australia, they sent their kids back to school free and clear, all good.
Y'all must not live in
But
Florida
everybody
because
is doing
Florida
that
just
now.
released all the restrictions on all business.
Well, we know Florida is
nice.
another country. Stop it. Drawing.
I have a degree from that state, and you're not wrong.
So welcome back. David Jones is on the phone. We have been talking this whole of this month is the art of being holy. And this week specifically, we are capping up our conversation on being holy. And Jason is always here. Reverend Jason is always here on Fourth Fridays, really for the spiritual literacy piece of this. Because there's so much, it's so much going on in the world, and it's so easy to forget that we are not powerless, that we are not without tools. And when I say, you cannot break down the master's house with the same tools it was built on, there are lots of ways to look at that. And, the first way that I kind of presented was maybe we just need to go by way of of Marcus Garvey and just get Black Star Line. Let's be out. Zimbabwe, here we come. But then there's another way, the boycott. So we're all just going to boycott. We're not spending. But like Jason presented, it's so complex. This problem is so complex, and just like this country would not even exist without our backs, we are woven in and through. So we are a tapestry in this thing, and so it's almost impossible we understand that if we all could just leave, there would be nothing. But then we also understand that our being here is for a reason. And then we also understand we are in an abusive relationship. So there are all these things, and it's deeper than just, there is no easy solution here. But I do know that by embracing and facing our holiness inherent, we will get closer to understanding what's being asked of us. And we understand that last week we asked the question, what is being asked of us during these times? And Spirit came back and said, heal. So, from a whole standpoint, from a healed standpoint, what would we build, right? Right? So, David, what did you want to say in regards to this conversation we're having?
A couple of things. I don't want to denigrate the idea of leaving, because that's the joint for some people. I think
that's
some people are called. Yes, I believe that some people are called to go. They are called to go back to their ancestral home. I've been reading about some Black folk who have, built up some wealth here in this country, and they've worked and done what they needed to do, and the motherland, Africa, is where they want to retire, and they have done well at that. I have heard of some people who have, in the middle of their working life, decided to go back. What I would say is that I think that mental and spiritual repatriation, if that is the joint for anybody, I think mental and spiritual repatriation should precede any physical move back to Africa. Because I mean, if you take the same reptilian colonized brain with you back to Africa, then there's no point. All you did was just physically move. I think a spiritual move has to take place. But I digress, because we're talking about holiness. I really resonated with a lot of what Jason said. I came up in a holiness denomination, the Church of God in Christ. Yes, Lord. Thank you.
What did you even say?
Yes, I came up in the Church of God in Christ. And the idea of holiness there, I've evolved from what they thought holiness was, because a lot of it was based on hatred of the body, unfortunately.
Come on.
And a lot of go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, he was saying
keep going.
Yes.
You're on fire.
Yeah, a lot of it was based on hatred of the body, and a lot of it was based on particularly controlling the bodies of women. It was a lot of talk around what a holy woman ought to look like and how she should be covered, and no lipstick, no makeup, no pants. So there were a lot of physical, outward, external things that went into the idea of what it was to be holy. But if you've been in church for longer than 10 minutes, especially if you've been in the Black church for longer than 10 minutes, you knew or you understood that there were people who outwardly knew how to do that, but their vibration was very low. They were outwardly holy, but they were living from their reptilian brain.
Well, you can look like, if somebody gives you a clue of what you can look like to be holy, you can look like, and be holy. And if I remember, I think it was Ernest Holmes who says pressure bust pipes. You know what I'm saying?
What?
A lot of what we looking at in the world. A lot of what we looking at in the world.
I rebuke you, Envy. Don't you put pressure bust pipes on Ernest Holmes. I cannot.
James
I swear to God, he said it. He may not say it quite like that, but he said that.
Absolutely. That, yeah. Leroy said pressure bust pipes. But Ernest Holmes did talk about energy and pressure. Absolutely.
Listen, I know what I read. How many people, and my job is to be the spiritual translator. So that's me. I'm the spiritual translator.
You're doing very well.
So here's the thing. So if you understand that a lot of what we're looking at in the world, where people they so-called hate gays, they so-called hate people who look different or think different or act different. That's all of their repressed stuff. That's it causes them to be these kinds of people. And so rather than face their truth and their holiness, face on, they want to tell other people what they're supposed to do. And then they create another trauma in that person. And that person, represses themselves just to look like holiness. But I digress.
Wherever you find somebody who is making an effort to control other people, if you scratch underneath that, you will find somebody who cannot control themselves, who is out.
Absolutely. And what you're talking about, David, I think is really important. And I think that the church, the old school church, people who are still attending to some very traditional old views, could learn a lot from what ideas you're bringing forth, because those ideas are not actually rooted in the teachings. They're rooted in the culture of the times. Because when we look at the culture of the times, when the Holiness Church and the Protestant Church were separating, and you had the charismatic movement, and you have the gesticulation, the energy, the movement of the body of people jumping up and shouting, and in allowing the energy of life and the vitality of spirit to move through them, you have people who are trying to control a thing. And if men have shown us anything, they've been trying to control women since the beginning, and trying to put blame on women from the beginning. Even, I don't care who tries to retell the story of Adam and Eve, all they're telling me about Adam is that he had no self-control. He had no discipline. Adam does not have discipline because he cannot say no to the thing. And so he tries to tell God, the woman you gave me, et cetera, et cetera. So what David is describing is exactly the church that my mother grew up in, my grandfather pastored, and all of those people, where of a woman who was on drugs and she was struggling, and she was walking into the church pleading, she was ready for help, couldn't come in until she put on a dress.
Right.
So there is an attempt for men, which is not unique to Christianity, to control women, so that they think that because a woman is covered up, that the ideas that are going to show up in their mind are suddenly going to go away. And that has always been a fallacy. It's always been an excuse for us not taking up our own practices, our own personal responsibility, our own discipline.
I feel like y'all need to say it louder for the folks in the back.
For the folks in the back.
Listen. Because, like, if you look at it, you're talking about essentially patriarchy. The whole concept of patriarchy.
100%.
I'm going to control women because I can't control myself. When you look at the Adam and Eve story.
I'm sorry, didn't mean to cut you. The funny thing about that is that the Holiness Church is matriarchal. These men were trying to control these women, but the spiritual power resided with the women, in my experience, because they were the ones that were actually living that life or trying to live it. They were the ones in spiritual
communities, David. Women there are still overwhelmingly more women in spiritual communities than men. no matter
Right.
no matter where you go, no matter what tradition you're talking about. So you're right.
Right. The men, in my experience in the Holiness Church, the men preached it, the women lived it. The women were the ones that could get a prayer through. The women were the ones who laid hands on you and you got healed. They were the ones who were carrying a spiritual vibration to match what was coming out of their mouths. That's what I experienced. I remember being a child in church. I was a premature baby, and I used to get very, very sick. I got very sick every winter. My lungs were weak, and I got very sick every winter. And there was a woman, her name was Evangelist Samela McGee, and she came to preach at my grandfather's church. And my mother had brought me. And she looked at me. I had a raging fever. I could not sleep. I was quite sick. She looked at me. She said, "Come here, baby." And just a holiness evangelist, a sanctified woman. She said, "Come here." I walked down the aisle. She put her arms around me and prayed. And when I turned around to walk back to my seat, my temperature began to drop. And I fell asleep in my mother's arms. So the power was with this woman. The men were running the church, but the spiritual power was living in this woman. So that goes to show you the what is the word I want to use? The cognitive dissonance of patriarchy.
Yeah. I mean, but think of what is we built this country, but we are treated like trash. The cognitive dissonance to hold that together. We are also humans, but we were treated like property. The cognitive dissonance required to hold that together. All the laws and all these other things. Like, I have some theories about all of this, and maybe the conversation will take us in the direction of sharing that. But I want to get to the place in this conversation where we understand authenticity and safety, and what is going to take, Jason and David, for us to transcend being afraid or transcend not feeling safe in our own skin. Okay, so roll that around in your awareness, and we're gonna go pay these bills. That's DJ Frosty Phoenix. That's Martin the Shaman. I'm Envy McKee. That's Reverend Jason. David Jones in the house. This is the Envy McKee Show, aka Star Folk University, your onlyest on-air school for modern mystics.
Woo woo.
Woo woo. We're on WURD 900 AM 96.1 FM. We'll be black
all day.
Support independent black media and join the 4WORD movement now at 215-425-7875 or visit wordradio.com.
He knew. Donald Trump knew how deadly COVID was months ago, and he lied about it. Just listen.
Now it's turning out it's not just old people, Bob. Just today and yesterday, some startling facts came out. It's not just older.
Yeah, exactly.
Young people, to plenty of young people.
Donald Trump knew as early as February just how deadly COVID was before anyone even died, and he did nothing about it. His indifference cost tens of thousands of black lives.
It goes through air, Bob. You just breathe the air. That's how it's passed. It's also more deadly than even your strenuous flus.
Nearly 200,000 dead. 1 in 5 are black. This virus is literally killing us, and Trump did nothing to stop it.
Well, I think, Bob, really, to be honest with you, I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down because I don't want to create a panic.
Too late, Mr. President.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
Recovery starts with a call. Pennsylvania's Substance Use Disorder Hotline is staffed by real people who are trained to help. They're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They'll get you or your loved one into treatment regardless of your access to insurance. If you or someone you know is suffering from addiction, call 1-800-662-HELP. Recovery starts with a call.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
2020 is the year of voter options. We have many different ways to exercise one of the most important activities in our lifetime. Some of us might be voting by mail, but the rest of us can still vote safely while masked up and social distancing in person at your local polling locations. If you're in Philadelphia, learn more about where your polling location might be at either votespa.com or philadelphiavotes.com. For more information on how to vote in Pennsylvania, visit states.aarp.org/Pennsylvania. Vote early.
WordRadio.com.
New Voices for Reproductive Justice is registering Black women and their families in Philly to vote. The general election is on November 3rd. You can register to vote online at rock.vote/New Voices. That's rock.vote/New Voices. The deadline to register is October 19th. If you need assistance registering to vote, visit newvoicesrj.org.
Word TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at forward. Word TV. Black Talk Media.
You're listening to the Envy McKee Show.
I wanted to check in. I've been spending most of my time having conversations about radical self-love in my What's Up Y'alls, because that is what keeps me grounded and sane, and is the message that I believe is mine to give to the world in this particular time. But I really wanted to have this conversation after hearing the news about the singular officer who was charged in Breonna Taylor's murder by the Louisville, Kentucky Police Department. And, you know, if you're not familiar with who Breonna Taylor is in the Breonna Taylor case, then, you know, if you're Black, it might be because you are just really wanting to protect yourself. If you're white, it's because you're steeped in white supremacist delusion. It would be the only reason why you would not know. It'd be and it would be utterly unacceptable. Utterly unacceptable. But I felt the need to talk about this because I believe that there is an opportunity for us to better live into the world we say we want, to better contextualize the world we say we want, and to see the disconnect in this moment. And so I want to share about this moment from my particular lens. And as is always, I want to be in the complicated nuance of this conversation, right? The both and of this conversation. And so first and foremost, I want to honor the incredible activists and organizers who have been, you know, boots on the ground in Kentucky, really, you know, gathering community and giving community direction. And, you know, and I want to honor and respect that work, because they're people that I tremendously respect. And if you maybe you have noticed or you have not noticed, but I have not posted a lot about the Breonna Taylor case. And not because it doesn't matter to me, not because I've been thinking about it, not because it hasn't been on my mind, but because I think that we want what we don't want. I know we want justice. And I think that we think there's some way we're ever going to get it in this system. And that is the part that for me feels maddening.
That's Sonia Renee. We played some of her work last week as well. She has this great Instagram page, and her name is Sonia Renee Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
And
She has got an organization called The Body Is Not an Apology.
The Body Is Not an Apology. And so we're gonna play more of that when we come back from our next break. We're not playing the whole thing. If you want to hear the whole thing, go to her Instagram. But the question that she asked, which I thought was powerful, in relation to the question that I asked before the break, which was, how do we transcend feeling unsafe in our skin? She asked, what might we demand of ourselves if we knew justice tasted different than the poison we've been served? What demands would we make on those in power if our vision of justice became a new thing? And she said, whatever justice is, we won't find it in this system. And that's basically the theme of what I have been talking about specifically in this whole thing. It's like, we are not going to break down the master's house in with the same tools that, built them. And on one standpoint, you can look at it as us. We are the tools that built the master's house. But then on the other standpoint, you can think of white supremacy and patriarchy and racism and all the other isms, and we can go down just dysfunctional thinking. That's not going to break down master's house. But then that mind wave requires that we trust people that are not trustworthy to do what they haven't done for 401 years. So, which leads us back to our spiritual power and the metaphysics, which leads us back to roots work, which leads us back to controlling what we can control, which is ourselves. And, there are lots of ways that we can shift this conversation. I'm in an abusive relationship. I'm out. Zimbabwe, here we come. I keep saying Zimbabwe like Zimbabwe is like the mecca somewhere, but, I'm just using it because I like the way it rolls off the tongue. So what do you say to this? How do we transcend? First of all, if we're talking about holiness, we're talking about our authentic self, right? Is that the way we're going to understand holiness? Is our authentic self. That's who we are fundamentally, adding not one cubit to our stature, right?
Yeah, I like the idea of declaring holiness as a quality of the fullness of our divinity in expression as our life.
Okay, so if holiness is authenticity, it's really complicated to be authentic if you don't feel safe. And for Black people, particularly, but people of color en masse, and people who are poor en masse, we do not feel safe in our own bodies, in our own country, based on obvious factors. So it's really hard to be authentic, to allow our authenticity to shine through when we don't feel safe. So how do we rectify that?
The first step has to be our identity. We must reconcile who we say we are, who we believe we are, and how we walk in the world. And until we do that, it's going to be something where even our own shadow or reflection might frighten us. I find that your example about this world and not being able to trust it is just another way of one of the wonderful clips of James Baldwin where he talks about, people asking us to trust America, asking us to believe a thing, asking us to believe in these people and what they're doing and the goodness of white people, which is something we have not seen. So you're asking me to have faith in something that we have not seen, not in mass. We've seen it maybe in individuals. We've seen it maybe in small groups, but we have not seen it in such a way that there is an overwhelming expression in those who hold an identity within whiteness that Black Lives Matter, that my life matters, that someone like Breonna Taylor should not have died. Like the challenge that so many people have is that when they read the comment section of any news post around the idea or the subject of Breonna Taylor, it's really obvious that they are okay with police officers breaking into somebody's home and shooting. But whenever you see, like, there's another video of a police officer that's gone viral recently. He's a black police officer. They're at a football game, and he's arresting a white woman specifically because she doesn't have a mask and won't put on a mask on. And initially, she had been warned multiple times. But then when you hear the white people who are obviously white that are recording it, they question whether or not he's even a police officer. He's got a full-on blue uniform, belt, you know. Is he even a police officer? I don't know. We should call him, like, so there's just all of this stuff that has nothing to do with who we are. So we have a conversation about holiness. We have to have a conversation about who we are. And from that place, then we can enter into these dialogues about whether or not we need to leave a country like America that our ancestors have bought and paid for with their blood, sweat, and tears, and whether or not it's a better investment to divest, which was the conversation around South Africa. It was better. They believed that it was better to divest than to invest in South Africa. So continuing to bring this conversation home back into the qualities that we're talking about, and when we're looking at the existence of the human beings that are African Americans, that are black, that are descendants of the kidnapped Africans, we really have to have a conversation about whether or not whether we are willing to set aside our own bodies for a moment and to tap into the thing itself. And it's hard for us to tap into the thing itself when we also have to reconcile the idea that the thing itself put me in this body, and this body is something that people hate. It's something that people want to destroy. And so there's some reconciliation, there's some healing, there is some sincere, deep undertaking that's being called upon. It's much easier to believe. It might even be easier for white people to believe in God than it is for black people. And I present that idea only in the idea that you're asking a people who have been tormented, destroyed, hurt, harmed, just at the boot of, like, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was talking to the Supreme Court about taking knees off of that. Like it's so incredible how many of our great teachers, Ruth Bader Ginsburg or Fannie Lou Hamer or whoever, all, like, there's so many references to take your knee off our neck, and we have the physical illustration of that in the life of George Floyd.
But how do we transcend feeling unsafe? Like, how is that something that we're going to do, or we just do it anyway? Like, we recognize we're not safe as black bodies in this country. We're probably not going to be safe, but we do the building anyway. We build the temples anyway. We build our individual temples anyway. We recognize that the second coming is community, so we build the community anyway. Like, we just do the work anyway. David, do you have a thought?
I do. I do think we do it anyway. Because our ancestors, they, somebody told them that they couldn't be doctors. They went to law and medical school anyway. Somebody told Leontine Price she could not sing opera. She went to Juilliard anyway. You do what the God inside of you calls you to do, whether the conditions are favorable or not. And personally, from a personal side, you and I, Envy, that's why we're in practitioner studies now, so that we have the inner strength and we can pass that along to others and teach others how to have it and how to access it. You respond to the God inside of you, and only to that. Only to that. And that's not to say I don't want to be flippant about it. Reverend Michael likes to say that there's nothing namby-pamby about spiritual development. It's serious work, and standing firm in the face of the state that wants to destroy your black body, and doing what the God in you tells you to do anyway. It is difficult. It is difficult. It is serious work. It's serious work to learn how to do. But if our ancestors have taught us nothing, they have taught us that it can be done. It certainly, for sure, can be done.
Mm-hmm.
What you want to say about that, Jason?
No, I'm in absolute agreement with David, and I would take it a step further that it must be done. Like, I don't think that, I do not believe that we've come this far just to leave. I do not believe that in any way.
I'm with Jason.
You don't hear me?
I'm with Jason.
Oh. I don't believe that. I just don't believe that we've come this far just to leave. And so the thing that, from a spiritual perspective, is probably the most difficult thing we're all called to do is to not lead with our body, to not lead with our mind, to recognize that the mind and my consciousness, the mind and my body, these are three different things. And my awareness of my body, my awareness of my mind are all subsets of my existence. And in that case, you can try to destroy my body. They have locked up bodies, and those bodies have still thrived. They have tried to destroy, they burned down entire towns, and yet time kept moving on, and eventually we found out that the universal teaching around Tulsa, Oklahoma finally got out. And the same is true about towns in North Carolina and South Carolina and things that are happening. And so the aspect of our holiness that becomes most essential is that we're not the body. And not just we're not the body, like deny it, like I'm not black. That's what I'm saying. I'm not limited by what you judge or do to this body or what happens to this body. The power of the living one continues to be powerful, pulsating, transformative, transcending. Because whatever you think that you're doing to the body, you're doing to yourself.
Wow. Okay. Well, what we're going to do now is we are going to go ahead and pay these bills. When we come back, we are going to cap up as we often do. We go around the room and find out what we learned. And Jason, you can stay on because you are guest too. So, yeah, this is one of those conversations. So, DJ Frosty Phoenix, Martin the Shaman, Reverend Jason. We got to give you a dean name, David. That's what you're talking about behind the scenes. That you're a dean of something. We got to give you a dean name. I'm Envy McKee. This is the Envy McKee Show, a.k.a. Starfolk University, the onlyest on-air school for modern mystics. We're going to go pay these bills on WURD 900 AM, 96.1 FM. We'll be black.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
But they've got the experience.
I'm still in shock 3 or 4 years later that we're in this position now. Our democracy is at a pivotal point.
From the top, we don't trust our government. We see the trouble we're in economically. We've got 170,000 Americans dead, and yet this president will do anything he can to make it seem like things are better than they are.
I did more for the black community than anybody with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln.
It's our responsibility. If we don't lead that effort to make things better, we can't ask other people to do it. There is no good reason not to vote.
right? We need to have individuals that are in office like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
They are our best shot to take us forward. And that's what makes me incredibly hopeful, but we really do have to work for this thing.
To the thousands who did not vote, we need you to show up for our future and for our country.
You cannot sit on the sidelines. You got to get in the game.
Paid for by Biden for president. This is Councilman Kenyatta Johnson. We need every Philadelphian to be counted in the 2020 census to get the funding we need to recover from challenges of COVID-19. The census brings funding to Philly for education, healthcare, food support, public safety, and more. For every person who isn't counted, Philly loses $21,000 in funds over the next decade. You have until September 30th to get counted. Go to www.2020census.gov or call 1-844-330-2020. Don't delay. Get counted, Philly.
Trump spends his time golfing, while COVID-19 hits the black community hard. It's not just wrong, it's immoral. We need Joe Biden. Joe takes COVID-19 seriously and understands the economic and health impact it's had on our community. Joe will listen to the medical experts, and he will protect Obamacare. Trump, he won't even wear a mask. Request a ballot now. Make a plan to vote. Our lives depend on it. Paid for by Ask Me People, which is responsible for the content of this ad. AskMePeople.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Justice, equality, accountability. These are the values we need in our leaders to bring us together and be the America we know we can be. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are those leaders. Joe Biden has the experience to fix our broken economy. He's done it before and he'll do it again. And our own Kamala Harris is ready to lead. As senator, she championed education, health care, and criminal justice reform. And with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in charge, we know the White House will be accountable to our community. For 4 years, our country has been run by inexperience and corruption, but we have the chance to turn it around with values rooted in our common goals and the leadership of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Paid for by Black PAC and Unite the Country. www.blackpac.com and www.unitethecountry.com, which are responsible for the content of this advertising, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Word TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at forward. Word TV. Black Talk Media.
You're listening to the Envy McKee Show.
Welcome back to the Envy McKee Show. Envy McKee, DJ Crossy Phoenix, Martin the Shaw Man, Reverend Jason Mitchell, officially tomorrow. At what time, Jason?
5 p.m.
5 p.m. Pacific time at Agape. He will be a reverend, but we getting started early. We're congratulating him early by calling him by his whole name, Reverend Jason Devion Mitchell. Okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
So this is the part of the show that we go around the room and we basically cap up the shift prompt. We are putting this shift prompt on the altar. We're culminating this conversation and putting it on the altar. And so we're going to go around the room and find out what each of us have learned. But I want to start with Jason only because I also want to ask him, what do we do should either Donald Trump is reelected again and or he refuses to relinquish power? Is there something thoughtful you have in that regard? Because it's top of mind.
My wonderful, beautiful partner, Leslie Marrero, put on Facebook the other day, very scary but brave thought. What if he wins in November? What will you do for the following 4 years? How are you going to ensure that you and your family are okay? How are you going to empower yourself, family, community, etc.? She went on a couple of lines, and I'm here to ask people a similar question. Why are you waiting to make determinations about your life depending on who's elected president?
I'm fighting the air right now. I'm fighting the air right now.
Why are you holding off on whatever it is you're supposed to do based on some politician who you've never met, who's actually not going to immediately impact whether or not you got food or water on your table? Like, I mean, I'm willing to give you the mayor. I'll give you like your local city council, maybe your town council people, but you don't decide whether or not your children are going to go to school based upon what's happening on the school board. You are not caught up in this system as much as the media would like to make you think that you're caught up in this system. And so what I'm here to tell people to do is we need to have our plan A, B, C, D. We can go all the way to Z if we need to.
Make new
we
letters.
Need to stop pretending. We need to stop. Oh, we need to do like the hurricane authority. We go to alpha, beta, delta, gamma, whoa, delta, epsilon. I got a song or two in there. But we need to stop pretending like we should be waiting for the systems before we make decisions about our own lives. If black folks, people of color, have made any error in the last 100 years, it's primarily focusing on the system, which we already know. We already know about the system. You can work the system. You can be involved in the system. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying go vote, go da-da-da, all of that. But I'm saying I'm not waiting on my life choices, decisions, how I feel about Monday morning till November 4th, or it might even be November 15th. I'm not holding out on my destiny, my life. I don't have children, but my babies, my cousins, my nephews, my aunts, my uncles, I'm not holding out on the joy or the liberation of life depending on who gets elected. For me, that's error. And I will say, to bring it back to our shift prompt, so now that we've moved that out of the way, the realization of holiness continues to be the idea that there is no aspect of you that is not divine. If you will allow yourself to fully embrace your divinity, no matter how many times you've stumbled, no matter how many times you've committed adultery, no matter how many times you've lied, no matter how many times you've lost, no matter how many times you've been bankrupt, if you will still simply acknowledge that you are divine, you can begin to have a greater realization of this thing, because then you can learn from all of those events who you truly are, because you're none of the events. You're not the sum total of the things that have happened to you. You are a thing, period, having the experiences, and your reactions to those events are still not you. Those are choices you are choosing. So we move back layer by layer by layer, then you get back to you. So what I'm continually remembering is that I'm me. I may vote, but I'm not simply somebody who voted.
Okay, so what did you learn in today's show, and how do we reach you?
What did I learn today? I learned that Eric doesn't really like that we put him on the movie phone voice. He does not.
That's not.
Appreciate
No, take that lesson away. I am fond of it. I am just not very
fond of. You're not fond of.
I heard what you when you said it, and I walked away, and you said it. I heard it.
Okay. I am fond of it. Take that lesson away. That doesn't count.
No, that's what I learned. It counts. I did not know. It does. It is something I will bring back, because now that I've learned it, I will exploit it.
He does it all the time.
I'm not that.
How did we reach you? How did we reach you, honey?
I'm kidding. You can find me on Facebook. You can do a quick search anywhere for Jason D. Mitchell. It's going to be mostly Jason Davion Mitchell soon, because I'm stepping into the fullness of who I am. But you will hopefully, if you have time, as NB already stated, tomorrow, Saturday, September 26th at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for the graduation of the Michael Bernard Beckwith School of Ministry at Agape University. It will be streaming live online. You can find it on my page. You can find me on Instagram under Conscious Lens. And I'm just excited to be with this community in another way. You guys are a powerful blessing to me, Philadelphia, and David from Chicago, and everywhere else that folks are tuning in from.
What did you learn, David? Real quick.
Oh, my goodness. What I learned is that true holiness is what happens when the energy that you carry, what you say, and how you walk in the world match. That is what it is to be holy. When those three things match, then you are living in holiness. That's it. That's all.
And Martin the Shaman, what did you learn?
What David brought out was about women and holiness in the Holiness Church, and I think that can be applied actually to a lot of congregations, a lot of faiths, and that the holiness, resides in the woman. And it's kind of funny, not funny, haha, but ironic that so many men try to stop that and didn't embrace that. So that was one thing. And the second thing I learned, or second thing I want to say, is just that we have facts in this country, and the media has a responsibility to deal with facts. Trump can't stay, if he loses the election, he cannot stay in office. That's a fact. He will be court-martialed, brought out there in handcuffs. So that's a non-entity. And we need to stop, in the media at least, we need to embrace facts again and stop this campaign of misinformation and fear that people are, and he's keying into that. And like Mitch McConnell, I hate to quote Mitch McConnell, but he was like, there'll be a peaceful transfer. That's not going to happen. Like Mitch McConnell was like somebody's grandfather. Like, no, that's not going to happen.
If you want to add killer animation.
And what about you, Eric?
Holiness is an awareness of self, and we are all a part of a universal body, and every piece of the body is necessary, whether they're wanted or not.
I learned so much that I'm not even sure I can find the one thing. I'm looking for it. I'm asking for it.
Oh, yeah, Papa.
Huh?
Learn about Papa.
You said Pow Pow, the Pow Pow Festival.
Oh, Pawpaws.
Pawpaws.
Yeah, Pawpaws. Pawpaw Fest. I learned, and I think maybe it's less of a learn and more of a reminder. I'm glad that both Jason and David reminded me that, running away is still running away. And while we appreciate that the Harriet Tubmans and the Marcus Garveys of the world and even James Baldwins of the world, they were able to take Exodus. They were able to go north. They were able to, leave the immediate circumstance, and in Harriet Tubman's case, and come back and free some more. But we're not living in those specific times. They, the times they were living in were extreme. And so now, when it's time for harvest for us, it would probably do us more of a disservice to leave what our ancestors have already planted. It's time for us to harvest. And so harvesting is hard work, right?
Amen.
Harvesting,
Get that
especially
out.
Spiritual harvesting, is harder work because there's no physical fruit that you can necessarily see, but you still know that it was planted in blood, it was planted in sweat, it was planted in full bodies, it was planted, some of it's still sparkling in the trees, there's blood still in the soil. And we as indigenous people of this world, it's time for us to really fully embrace our full holiness and understanding our full holiness and really start to connect with the beings. I learned something that I'll probably play next week about how the indigenous people looked at plants as people. They're not human people, but they are living beings that have autonomy, and we commune with them, and they were here first. And so in order for us to, if we as indigenous peoples begin to dance with nature and the planet and really connect with nature and the planet the way that we used to, all of this other effery will begin to dissolve. And maybe that's the way. It's just a thought. But that's class. Thank you all for being present. If you learned something powerful here, please don't keep it to yourself. Tell folk about the show. Next week, bring 3 friends or 10. The world is held together by agreements and our conversations about those agreements. If you want to live in a different world, we have to talk about things differently. As Dr. B is known to say, the second coming is community, okay? Thank you to our guest stars, Reverend Jason Davion Mitchell, and also to David Jones, and also to Taylor from Sister of the Yam. I love you, DJ Frosty Phoenix and Martin the Shaman. Thank you for being present. And don't forget, sign up for free weekly updates that include stars notes from the Woo Woo Metaphysical Studio, clips from our chats with our resident deans and fellows, get the shift prompt and the Starlavis before class so that you can be prepared to have these conversations with us, okay? And all of that good stuff at envymckeyshow.com. My name is Envy McKee. On behalf of all of us, we love you. I'm going to say this, and you're going to say it back. Levine, Ohio Star people.
Levine Osho, Envy.
Envy.
Freedom Sounds of Jazz is up next. See you next week. New shift prompt. Peace.
Woo woo.
Woo woo.